Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask a Scientist Gaming, where we combine mediocre gameplay with expert science. I'm Ken Hansen, Associate Professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. I'm a photochemist / photophysicist. I shine light on molecules and materials, and I want to see where that light energy goes, whether it's moving electrons for solar cells, making and breaking bonds for catalysis and fine chemical productions, whatever it might be, I care about those things. But more importantly, joining me today is Dr. Elissa Gentry. Elissa, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. I'm Elissa Gentry. I have a PhD in law and economics and a JD, and I study health risk and how to regulate it.
All right. What do you typically teach?
So I teach usually torts, which is basically a civil suit. You can think of it as accident law. Accidents are torts. And then I teach health law, law and economics, and sometimes a medical malpractice seminar.
Nice. All right. Equally important, what game are we starting with today?
We are starting with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog. This is one back from your childhood.
Way back when. The music itself is reminding me of the terrors of childhood.
It's deeply embedded in your psyche, which is fine. But tonight you get revenge because one, you have infinite lives, and two, you're basically invincible. So
if only my sister could see me now.
Hopefully she logs on to get some news,
right?
We'll let you settle in a little bit.
There we go.
Yes, basically I found a cheat code that allows Elissa to get hit, and she gets coins when she gets hit. So
that's going to work out really well for me. I'll say that. Yeah.
But the thing about this game, when it first came out, it was just so fast-paced compared to everything else. Like, you felt like you were just dominating as soon as you start that running.
Yes, and I do like those little bungee things. Those have been fun. The springs.
Yeah.
That was back in the day really important.
They did the best they could with their 16-bit sound systems. All right, so you got warnings from both Jeff and Matt about what tonight would be like.
Yes, I have.
Any hesitancy coming into it?
Oh, super, yes. But I said, Elissa, come on.
What's the worst thing?
What's the worst that can happen?
Like, embarrass yourself in a video game?
Yeah. So I think about risk for
I mean, the thing is, playing video games at all amongst like our students' lens, they're like, you play video games?
I know.
It doesn't matter if you're good.
As my students told me, I don't know any of your games. You must be very old.
So kind.
Life is going really well.
They haven't learned diplomacy yet. Good try, kids. Oh man, but it feels good. It's coming back.
Feels great. Yeah, it's coming back.
One level, that's at least a victory on that.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Excellent.
All right. So one of the first questions we like to ask is, 6-year-old Elissa did not think she'd be playing video games, talking about law and health and economics at Ask a Scientist Gaming. So we've all had our own winding journeys. I mean, particularly for you, you uniquely have a PhD and a JD, which I don't know the prevalence of that. We'll get into that later. But
yeah.
I mean, 6-year-old you took a path to where you are today, and there were major milestones that changed your direction along the way. What were those events?
Yeah.
What path did you take?
It's a great question. So I was always pretty interested in law. For some reason throughout college, I just really thought that I'd be a lawyer. So I always wanted to go to law school. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in undergrad, I added economics as a major, and I just fell in love with it. I really enjoyed the modeling. I really enjoyed the math. It really was something that I felt was very applicable and interesting. And so then I realized what I'd like to do is also do grad school and do a PhD related to economics. So I looked at a lot of different programs that would do this individually, and it's very difficult. And having gone through the program, I will say kudos to those who coordinate across grad schools. There's a special place in heaven for the patients that you have. So I found a joint program where they do both. And so it was really great because I was pushed to integrate the two fields from the very start. And so that's been kind of fun.
And so you were admitted to a JD PhD program?
That's right.
Okay, so it's
so you have to be
PhD equivalent.
Yeah, you have to be get admission to both grad school and to then the law school.
I see.
Yeah.
So independently admitted, but there's a joint program.
There's a joint program. Yes, and so
how prevalent are those programs?
It wasn't very prevalent back then. We're seeing a bunch of them come through.
I see.
I'm just getting killed by this guy.
You're getting hits in there. That's all that
I think his car is very, defensively shaped. Let's just say. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so the PhD MD program, that's one that allows you to like experiments on humans. And so
Yeah.
a JD PhD. I mean, is that a particular avenue you pursue after that, or is it academic?
It's supposed to be mostly academic. So I think what I like about it is that my PhD toolkit and the substantive knowledge of law really helps inform my research. So I think a lot of times when you see research in the intersection of two disciplines, sometimes it's getting something really wrong about the substance of the discipline, or it doesn't have the toolkit by which to make causal claims or assess causality in the way that we'd like. And so that has been really nice for me, is to be able to integrate those aspects of each field. So for me, they're not two separate things. This is very much, I use all my toolkits as I do research.
Yeah.
But it varies for people, so it really depends.
So you've worked as a clerk too.
I have.
Worked in, I don't know, the industry equivalent of law.
Yeah, it's as industry as I get, but
Yeah.
it's such a good experience because you are with a judge and you're able to understand what they're thinking. You write briefs, you write drafts, and I never practiced because I knew I never wanted to practice law. Going back to, how did I get here?
Yeah.
I did an internship at a law firm when I was in college, and I knew that they were awesome at how, but I was not interested in how. I was interested in why, and that's not something you get to understand practicing. So for me, that was academia. How do I get out of here? This is awful.
I honestly don't know. I think you might have to
Jump at the end?
bottom
Yeah.
here.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's why I knew I wanted to go into academia rather than anything else. So I never practiced. The most practice I got was being a clerk, and that was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
If any law students are interested, you should absolutely do it, no matter what you do after the fact.
I mean, and so you teach students that want to be lawyers, right?
Yeah.
They're all. I mean, so you at least have that experience. For
Yeah.
me, I've been academics my entire life, and they're like, "Oh, what's it like to apply for a job in industry?"
You're like,
No, I'm sorry, I'm a fake.
no. I mean, I feel the same way when they talk about, the firm life. I don't really have any experience with that, but I can tell them what's good analysis, and I can tell them what courts think is persuasive, which is something that they need to learn. And plus, your students go out and create things, right?
Hopefully. I'm one right now that actually wants to go into patent law.
Ah, yeah,
That's
that's
not
a great,
enough.
yeah. No, it's not.
Pays well.
It pays really well. It's hard to qualify for it.
Yeah.
Very few go into law school with that background unless they are looking to become patent attorneys.
So you took the bar?
Yeah, I took the bar in Tennessee where I went to school. For me, I was never going to practice. What am I doing here?
No, it might be left.
Yeah, okay. For me, I was never going to practice. I just wanted to show that I could. And so
Just the practice.
I mean, it's understandably a certification issue.
Yeah.
But so I
You
just
did
took
most
it.
of the hard work already because we'll do the test, right?
So I took it where I went to school. In hindsight, I should have taken it in Alabama so I could be more help to my family. Less help right now.
Makes sense. Mig Tally, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Very, very supportive husband there.
First time chat. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. They already clicked the follow button. So
Excellent.
what's fun is he gets to be on the other side of the
I know.
the predictions. He gets to.
Yeah.
Did you run him by him? Does he know?
Does he know? It depends on if he was paying attention. It's a marriage question.
Oh man. Oh, I apologize, Matt. That could cost him dearly
Could
tonight.
cost him.
We'll see how confident he is.
Yeah.
That's fun.
All right. Second work.
And Shmonite, welcome back to the stream. Veil of ignorance.
Oh, that's
Just
nice.
don't answer.
Yeah.
Stay away from the screen. Well, it's anonymous. You're fine. Just kidding. I can see what people vote. Much they vote on their degree of confidence. Yeah, anyone joining us, our guest, Elissa Gentry. She's happy to answer questions about health, law, and economics, the intersection of those things. Risk and uncertainty. I'm excited to get into that. What else do you want to pitch? Free market versus regulation.
Lots of that. Medical malpractice is a hot topic. I have lots to say about that. And if you have any questions about torts, have you committed? You just let me know.
If you have any questions about torts, Alyssa's great at parties.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Topics. Any questions on torts?
Feel like I'm just going in circles here.
So I think you're going up to the right,
Okay.
if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And chat, feel free to backseat.
Yeah, there we go.
We have no pride in this game.
Oh, especially me.
You're going to get pretty far. I mean, without dying. And we have infinite lives, too, so we get to try it over and over again.
Oh, it's not over here.
Tails is semi-useful in this front.
Ah.
I mean, so what was... you've done the PhD route, you wrote a thesis, you've also taken the bar exam. Like, what was... I don't know if you want to make a declaration on this.
Sure.
What was the hardest part?
Oh, definitely the dissertation. But it also fun. It was a good way to
So if you press down and C,
down and see.
yeah, give you that little speed boost
Oh,
of
excellent.
standing still.
There we
That
go.
works.
Yeah, so that was a nice culmination and, what I would be doing for the rest of my career. So I feel like just getting through the grad school, law school, relative to other PhD programs, you're in school for a long time. You take a lot of coursework. And so the big challenge was trying to fit in research at the same time because you couldn't just devote yourself fully to research. You had to do it at the same time. So that was a bit of balancing. Throughout, I don't know if you know this, but law reviews are run by law students. And so during this time, I was also doing that and working on the journal, which was an awesome experience in that you just read a bunch of papers and analyze them. And it was a great job for a nerd. But it took up a lot of time. And it's also the way law professors publish, which is kind of odd for a field.
Yeah, Jeff and I talked about that.
Yeah.
It's like tenure is in
In the hands
students'
of, well, kind of, in the sense that it depends on a tenure committee will independently analyze and you get outside letters about the quality of the work. But in the intermediary, you have students assessing your work.
I mean, has there been a discussion on how crazy that is relative
Always.
to every other field? Because
Always. I think that law professors don't want peer review.
I mean, that's fair. Editing and stuff.
It's a lot of work.
And a lot of time. And
Yeah, but you definitely write articles differently for that reason because you have to give a lot of background.
oh, that's interesting. I mean, your audience is much more naive and less experienced. In the field.
Right. So you can't really do a lot of shorthand, though. No.
I don't know what happens when you run out of air. We're going to find out.
We're going to find out. Ugh, poor Sonic. He would die in a chemical plant. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. Perfect. I don't know if you remember that sound effect. Mitch P2023. Also, Peyton and Starkey Dogs say hello.
That's my sister. Oh,
That's
sorry.
awesome. Also, JD.
PhD.
PhD.
She's in grad school right now, actually. So she's getting through this. All right.
So she's living the dream as we
Of
speak.
course, yeah. She is in her
Jump up and get air. We're gonna find out.
We're gonna. I give up.
Let's see.
Just let me die. Oh, that was very dramatic.
So I just want to point out: infinite lives, infinite coins, and you still die.
You're welcome, guys. This is the action you were looking for.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch P wants to know what's the best tort hypothesis you've written.
Tort hypothesis? Hypothetical, yes.
Oh, sorry, hypothetical.
No worries. So, law.
Well, yeah, let's explain what
so,
that is
yeah.
first.
I'm going to die.
You're so distracted by torts.
That's what happens when what tests give me. Yeah, there we go. Come on, dude. Come on. No.
So I think if you get a little bit of running speed, you jump high. Nice. Oh,
All right. Very
All right.
good. So, torts exams are usually issue spotters, in which I give students a hypothetical and I ask them to analyze it and spot claims and tell me how likely
that's fun.
the claims are to succeed.
So it's like a made-up case study.
It's absolutely a made-up case study.
That's fun.
You see me utilizing the age-old tactic of moving so that...
Smash. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers indeed.
Thank you all for joining us. Little Sonic gameplay.
There's a bouncy thing on the left. This is very helpful. Okay, so I've done a number of things. What was my most recent torts exam? I usually make it based off of a television series as an inspiration.
Yeah. Relevance to their lives.
Yeah, of course. So I figure that it doesn't matter if no one knows it, but if you recognize it, then you're a little happy while you're taking this terrible exam.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what my last one was. I do a lot of Dr. House hypotheticals in health law.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Where he breaks every law.
Where he breaks every law. I tell my students that
it's morally reprehensible.
Yes. It's a great, piece of... I thought there was something below there. How many times can I die in this game? It's basically just malpractice after malpractice after malpractice. No informed consent, no nothing.
Yeah. Really entertaining.
It's really entertaining. Everyone wants to be as smart as House, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what else is
the Sherlock Holmes of medical. Right?
Yeah. Most of the drug dealing and the drug use.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So that's interesting though. Like, do your students always get the reference? So one of my things is at some point you have to stop making reference to like Simpsons because I've aged out, right? I'm too old, but you're still reasonably close to them in age. There's examples of relevance.
You think that, but like, I don't know. I think also that
the medium has changed a lot.
Yes. And so I used to have students who, just kill me now.
Suicide. Better than drowning. I respect that.
I agree.
I respect
So, like 30 Rock was always a sitcom that I'd use as examples. And now students don't know that, which is such a shame.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Kids these days. You tried TikTok.
I refuse to get on TikTok.
Just like relevant torts.
I just feel like it's just a bunch of my data being lost.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, I even regret, like, we're on Twitter, right, posting our stuff. We're propping up some questionable things.
Yeah. I, like a normal adult, look at TikToks when they get to Instagram, like a real adult. So yes, I'm trying to think, what was my last, I think I was actually very proud of this hypothetical. I cannot remember what it was.
That was close.
Yeah. At some point, do you think that he's not supposed to live? Not to be like...
He's chosen the wrong occupation.
I mean, occupational risk, this is, what would you say? What kind of compensating differential do you think he asks for this line of work?
He gets paid in chili dog.
Oh, that is a tough economy for him.
Big tally. What is Sonic's VSL?
Yeah, exactly. So,
you know what that is from one of your questions?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to asking that.
Well, so the value of statistical life is the amount society is willing to pay to reduce statistically one's fatality. So if you were to pay to reduce a fatality risk, generally, what is a measure that we're willing to spend to statistically save one life? So importantly, we're not saving any one person's life by, at all. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm going to die here.
That's such a heavy valuation.
It is. But what we're doing is basically saying what risk... what risk reducing measures are we willing to pay for and what aren't we not? And so it sounds like a really morbid topic, but at the end of the day, if you don't think about that, you make poor trade-offs between physical risk and money. And we always make trade-offs between physical risk and money. So it's not like every time I got. Yes, please.
I can get you just briefly. Well, we'll see. It's been a long time.
So the VSL is a unit of measure for that one statistical life. So here, Sonic, we often measure it using occupational risk because we think that revealed preferences, especially in blue-collar work, fatality risk is actually a pretty salient part of how you choose your compensation, what you're willing to work at. And so when we see what people are willing to make the trade-off between accepting more money and accepting more risk, we can disentangle that from other attributes of their job. So the VSL is roughly 10 million subject to inflation, which is really, I think, a helpful metric. So it's usually derided as something that is immoral.
Well, that's interesting.
It's immoral to measure, right? But if you don't measure it and you basically ignore it,
Got a checkpoint.
which gives it a value of 0. So it's one of these things that you can either say it doesn't matter, but really does, clearly.
So is there a timeline on that valuation? It's like one of the really relevant ones would be climate change, right? Where we're costing lives in the future. So
Right.
how do you do that?
Good question. So what it is, we can do that with future generations. So often a question is, whose utility are we valuing? Usually it's hard to figure out. There are some big questions about this in the environmental economics literature because climate change is such a long horizon that we have to worry about.
That was the boss fight, though. That was the boss fight. It was just the end of the level. That's where you want to go.
Oh my God.
If you stay in the middle, you'll stay alive.
All right. That's good.
Do you have a newfound appreciation for Matt's streams?
Oh my God, so much. I was already in awe. So. But yeah, so there's always a question of how much you want to count future lives, because theoretically we use discount rates for future income or valuations, but far enough in advance, so heavily discounted, you can basically be 0.
Yeah.
So there's one question is, how do we treat future lives? It's not a discussion I'm really a part of because health has much a shorter horizon than environmental does.
Makes sense.
But it's very interesting and consequential how you make that choice.
So Macaroon Granola has requested a factoid.
All right.
A knowledge bomb you want to drop on the audience?
Great. Yes. Do you know that medical malpractice insurance is actually usually not experience rated?
It's not experience.
Yes. Do you want to get me
interesting.
to this?
Yeah, I'll get you the...
Somehow this is really not working.
No worries.
So the idea is usually that doctors are afraid to be sued because then their premiums will go up. But actually, their premiums are never really responsive to their own actions. That was what we call experience rating. They are community rated, so their premiums will go up.
On average, how shitty doctors are.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things I think that people don't know about malpractice insurance is that, for better or for worse, they just really don't have.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, you want the platform.
I see,
as soon as
yeah.
the platform's up. Tails is helping out.
Ugh,
The drink.
I'm going to die
No
in this
worries.
place. So what were we talking about? Yeah, so that's one thing that people don't know. So when we talk about how to relieve pressure on doctors, I think one thing that we don't think about is the fact that we often have to be concerned about the perception of risk rather than even the actual risk. And their perception might not be accurate. And if as long as our perception of malpractice,
Get over that.
yeah.
Oh, you were there. We're there.
All right, you want to finish this up?
We'll get to the next one. No worries.
Okay, question. What do you think about the trials that included the famous Scopes trial? Oh, okay. I don't have a lot of thoughts about that. Oh, Mitch P. Do you know if the anti-kickback statute would prohibit a physician in an orthopedic practice from taking a primary care for lunch for dinner? All right, this is
Kickbacks is interesting.
it's a very interesting, and it's thorny. So, what can be considered a kickback is not always straightforward.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of health law to be concerned about issues of fraud. So the thing I mostly study is the False Claims Act, in which basically when people submit for reimbursement to the government, they can, if they submit a false claim for reimbursement, that would be a matter that would give them, treble damages, civil and criminal penalties. And the way I study it is in the context of off-label promotion. So pharmaceutical companies promote a drug for particular uses, and then the government says if that prescription was written in response to that, it gets a false claim, and then they get it for fraud.
I mean, so we talked about hypothetical torts and made up case studies. What are the real example case studies you talk about? Like either malpractice or prescription drug regulation. What's your go-tos?
Yeah,
That every student has to know.
every student have to know. So in torts, we do a lot of case law. Torts is what they call a common law field of law in which judges make up the law. So you always have to go through cases, and torts is also a state-specific law. So what we learn is general types of rules and wherever the students practice, or even what law the case will apply. So even if you only practice in Florida, you might come into contact with Texas law because the case might have Texas law governing it. So I tell students, we don't learn Florida law specifically. We learn how to interact with law. So you know, whenever state you're in, however they change the law, how to use these types of rules. So it's a different skill set. It's not so much about memorizing particular rules, but learning how they interact, their strengths and weaknesses, and potential ways to react to claims. So what defenses would you raise? What are the weaknesses of a particular type of claim? And if you are bringing the claim yourself, what do you need to shore up?
I see.
More so, I think, even in law, it's about how to analyze law, because AI is doing more and more of regurgitating law. They can just pull a rule for you. What you really want to do is be able to make a case to a court persuasively why the law should be a particular way, because it's that way in a particular other type of area of law. We've made exceptions in this way before. The right interpretation is actually this. Those kind of skills are really what I'm trying to teach the students through whatever it is that we're studying, because that's what makes them good lawyers.
I mean, so the examples are just there for the analysis process.
Yes,
much
exactly.
more so the specifics.
Yeah, because oftentimes we're also using the analysis in a context that. So we're not trying to always see, I'm going to die here, aren't I?
Maybe. So this one has bubbles coming out of the ground some places, and you can take those bubbles, but I don't remember where they are. Oh, there's one. That little rock thing that you see.
I'm going to die.
That sound effect is traumatizing. The speed change, they really knew how to damage people.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I feel like I get that fight or flight reaction. I get the stay in fear, just be paralyzed.
No worries.
But yeah, so we're not really trying to explain what happens in a particular case ever. We're using the way the court talks about particular cases to derive principles of law and to make comparable arguments in other cases.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it sounds a lot like what we do in sciences, or at least with PhD scientists, because my grad students will never get a job doing what we do now. It just will not happen. We're too specialized. It's, what I do isn't commercializable yet. So they're not looking for someone just to do that. They're looking for someone that can think about the problem and address it in very particular ways.
Where do your students usually go?
So I've had a mix of A couple have gone to postdocs. 3 of 8 of my PhDs have gone to Intel, working for them, working for materials processing. I have one at Kodak, one that worked for Department of Agriculture for a while. So yeah, it's a mix.
Yeah.
I think only one does light-related chemistry. So, yeah. How useful my training was, we'll find out. They'll let me know in a few years.
Of course, of course. My dad did his PhD in chemical engineering, and he went into industry after that. But he said that he thought the PhD basically gave him a lot of confidence in how to think about creating knowledge, you know. So he's used it in other ways.
And the grass overlay, the like second layer on top, it knows the hell out of me.
Yeah. I need to get mine out of here.
That would be my guess. I mean, so if you had to go back, you did the JD PhD at the same time.
Yes.
Would you rather have done it stepwise? I mean, it would have taken longer, but maybe you would enjoy life a little more.
Well, if I did it all over again, I'd be an engineer.
So that's one of my other questions.
Yeah.
If you had to start over from scratch, engineering would have been...
Engineering is great.
Yeah.
My dad and my brother are both engineers, and I feel like they do interesting stuff. They didn't have to do grad school. It was,
Yeah, that's true. Even with a bachelor's, you get paid well on it.
Yeah, you get paid well. You're solving problems basically all the time.
Yeah,
I find that very...
real problems.
Exactly.
Hypothetical.
Not hypothetical.
Torts based on house.
Exactly. I will say the process of solving hypotheticals is really fun.
Yeah.
All right, I need to get a better strategy in this game. This is
No worries. And if you get sick of this, we can move on. We have plenty of other games. As long as you're having fun, we'll keep doing more.
I'll keep trying this one for one more. Let's see if I can do anything.
So those of you not familiar with old school games like this, you had 3 lives and then the game.
That's right.
Like, it was unforgiving.
It's very unforgiving. And then
I know,
the rings are really
You're younger than me, but presumably you were the age you could go to like Blockbuster and rent a game.
Yeah.
Have it for like 24 hours. And that was your opportunity to beat it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, well, sorry, better luck next time.
I do RIP Blockbuster. That was a 5 for 5. When I was in college, they'd still have the 5 for 5 for 5 deal.
Yeah.
Which was, fantastic.
Yeah. You do the movie marathon nights with friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Now we just stream everything. We're so spoiled.
Remember Netflix was actually, you had to go and grab whatever.
The DVDs.
DVD, yeah. And now
Actually,
that's unthinkable. No one would ever.
I mean, so you talked a little bit about AI and writing briefs and things like that. There was a case recently where they like copy and pasted a chat GPT brief that had a made up case.
That's perhaps an issue.
Is this becoming more prevalent? Are you seeing this on the students maybe? Like, how is it impacting you?
So I think there's a big question about how to teach with AI. Do you use it? Do you say, the uncomfortable truth is this. AI is not making life easier for students in terms of jobs. It's going to make it harder because it can do a lot of things that used to be associate work. Now it's not associate work. You have to show a firm that you have the analytical skills to do more than grunt work. And that's difficult.
No, you made the jump, but is it pretty good? I mean, they're starting to utilize that actual lock-on.
Yeah.
Once they're replacing the interns with.
Yeah. It's just that a lot of stuff that used to be route things like checking sources, doc review was easily automatable. And in some ways it's good. In some ways it just means that where the prior generation could get away with getting a foot in the door. You no longer get that foot in the door by these entry jobs. You have to really show that you can do more than just what they tell you to do.
That makes sense. Have you incorporated it into your teaching?
I have not, because I don't know that is the best way to run my class. I think the hardest part is actually for legal writing professors who are teaching students how to research and write. How do they want to incorporate AI into the writing process? So some of them will let AI write the first draft. But here's the thing. I worry about our ability to write. I think it's if anything, more important because you at least need to be proficient in that. And so I think sometimes I worry that students think, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. But it's just another way you have to be at baseline better than other people anyway.
I mean, it's something I'm definitely conflicted about because it's like, I mean, people said, similar things when a calculator came out, right? You don't have to do math anymore. Or even like when Word autofills in or autocorrects spelling, like I don't have to spell anymore.
Right.
But should I? I don't know. And so I've not incorporated ChatGPT directly into my class.
Oh, really?
But
you haven't?
I haven't yet. No, it's one of those. It's still emerging. There's actually the Journal of Chemical Education, which is like the American Chemical Society's premier education journal. It's chemistry. But they have a special issue coming out this summer where people are like, here's how I've used it. And
interesting.
It's a whole lot of, like use it to write a first draft and analyze why it's wrong and where it gets things wrong.
Yeah.
Which isn't terrible, is it?
It's not terrible. I think I'm trying to figure out how do you use that as a teaching tool without making a crutch. So to take the calculator, example, if you think you don't have to learn calculus because you have a calculator, that's definitely not true, right? And especially as they move into higher order functions like assessing arguments. I mean, it's all the more important that you know how to craft and create a good argument as well. So you might not be the one who's checking sites, but that's good. You got to learn to do the harder thing.
I imagine for you guys, for critical analysis of arguments, I mean, ChatGPT is very good at making things that sound like they make sense.
Yeah.
Like but it's going to be foundationally a shitty argument, right? Is that a means of finding the holes in ChatGPT? Is that a good exercise?
Well, I mean, I think you could be, but I think you probably get better with a professor because they'll make it wrong in an interesting way.
That's fair. It's a targeted wrongness.
Yeah. Of course, then ChatGPT, the more you feed it, the more you train it, maybe it'll be great.
Yeah. No, it's slightly terrifying. Yeah, I just submitted an article trying to detect ChatGPT usage on a multiple choice test. Yeah. Which sounds crazy because it's just a single answer, but ChatGPT has patterns, it has behaviors, it has certain things it gets right and wrong, and so.
Yeah, how good are they really at though identifying it?
In terms of cheating, not very good in terms of like a false positive. Surprisingly, ours, like when they try to do text analysis, it's not really good. It has a lot of false positives. But our fitting with multiple choice turned out to be really good. Like our false positive
really?
rate
Interesting.
was less than 10%. So yeah, it was. I don't know anyone else has done that, so I'm really excited to see what reviewers have to say.
Absolutely.
Because it's crazy. You should be able to see single answers, but yeah.
Because I've only seen the text part. So that's
but even that, there's students getting flagged and kicked out of school for software that
they're high. It's high risk as a faculty member too to make that accusation because of that.
So have you seen any like malpractice suits for somebody that used ChatGPT in a?
Well, that's interesting. So what's been discussed a lot now is whether or not doctors should be using AI for nudges. And I kind of actually think that AI might be a great tool for doctors to use, not so much as something they rely on, but something to check. So if your AI is suggesting that there might be an issue here, just take another look. It's not necessarily that the AI is better than you, but maybe you are over-counting something that you don't know. So there's this concern with expertise. Experts believe that they have an intuition often, and there's a question as to whether or not that intuition is actually accurate. So if you ask experts what they're looking for in a particular situation, they'll give you some sort of rubric. And if you were to train an algorithm to implement that rubric, it sometimes differs from what the experts are actually doing because they're being biased by small differences that seem salient but are actually not that probative by their own admission. And so I think AI can be helpful in that context by basically saying, I don't know what's happening here.
So if you hold it down, it'll yeah.
Okay.
Punch.
No, there we go. So in contexts like that, where we might overestimate our intuition, it might say, well, have you considered this? Now the question becomes, how do we use malpractice in that context?
Yeah, who do you blame?
Yeah, who do you blame? But the standard for malpractice is what would a minimally competent physician have done? And there's often a resource element to it. So we used to have standards of care that were local under the idea that different localities practiced medicine so differently. But now not many people go to med school only where they practice. They go to med school, they go to a national med school, and then practice God knows where. And so the world is no longer that local. So courts have mostly rejected this locality standard and says, no, you have to know what a national practitioner would know regardless of where you're practicing. But we will take into account the resources you have within the place that you're practicing. So AI nudges might be one of those resources. If you don't have access to AI nudges, maybe you don't have the same sort of options that a physician who would.
I see.
So if I had to guess, I think that's where we go.
I mean, that's intriguing. So you're using an established framework to think about this problem, which is what you talked about earlier. Right?
Yes.
No one 20 years ago was having the discussion about AI, but all of a sudden it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Right? That's
exactly.
That's pretty fun. What did you call it? It was minimally
competent. Yeah.
I sure hope my doctor is minimally competent.
Don't we all?
But that's such a weird metric to argue for, right? So you have to bring in an expert that says, it's an amateur doctor should have done this, right?
Yeah, and minimally competent is basically, so in broad strokes, usually when we think about negligence, we're thinking about a reasonably prudent person. That's our kind of the term that we use. Not like the best person, not the most careful person, but a reasonably prudent person.
Yeah.
But in professional negligence, which malpractice is, we often think, okay, well, we don't want to impose ideas of reasonability. We're just going to use custom. So what would descriptively the average physician do? And reason that we might not want to use reasonableness is because, that is some question I ask my students. Why do we only use reasonableness for non-professional negligence and not professional negligence? And it's a good question. Sometimes I think, though, it's because we're hesitant to second-guess professionals. So doctors or things with expertise, we say, okay, maybe we're not the people to analyze it. We should just leave it to the discretion of the industry. So that's where minimally competent comes from. It's really only comparing itself to other doctors, no matter if all doctors are doing this wrong.
But that's such a subjective thing, right? So presumably both sides on the case bring in their expert to say, here's why they're incompetent or competent.
Yep.
Like who wins that? It's the best pitch?
It's often the battle of experts, which is a big critique of the field. So there are a lot of people saying, well, this would come up in the standard of care. What would a minimally competent person have done? And so some people say, well, that is broken and it's expensive because we all have to keep hiring these people. So what we should do instead is we should make safe harbors, different ways of assessing what a normal doctor would have done. Some scholars have said what we should do is survey doctors to say what you would have done, and then we actually use that surveyed response. Yeah, exactly. Because technically you want to know what the average doctor would have done. There are, of course, so many issues with surveys, not the least of which is that if they're prepared in anticipation of litigation, we might not trust them that well.
Well, and how you write the question, right?
Such a big difference.
A question expert to say this is not biased.
And so what do? Get a court to approve it and then only look at the court's survey? Does everyone start to introduce surveys? If so, that would only increase costs. Okay, how am I going to... Will you go faster?
So if you press down and see.
Down and see.
Oh.
No.
Nice. So
all right.
You hold right. Once you get off.
Okay.
Let's give you some speed.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So for that reason, there we go. So other people say, forget that. We should use clinical practice guidelines. Let that be the standard of care. That would be good because now physicians will know what's expected of them. That's nice.
So that's like the manual of how you treat certain situations.
The problem is we have a lot of clinical practice guidelines by different people. So which one would you be using? Which one would a doctor be held to? And then other people say, forget that. We should just use publications. So go to science and see what they should do, what they suggest, and that will be the standard.
Yeah.
And philosophically, courts are not sure if they're following science or just medical practice, which is different from science.
Yeah.
And so it's a thorny issue with a lot of people saying basically, well, what we should do is actually just keep relying on juries, which is not the best.
Can you use claims data to compare from what physicians have done, or are these cases too rare?
Oh, that has been actually a suggestion. I think what's difficult is...
It's hurting you.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Dr. Robotnik. This is the most elaborate torture scheme ever.
Yeah. Do I want to go down, or is that probably bad?
Oh.
All right.
2 coins. Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. So, yeah, some people have suggested that. The problem is we don't have amazing claims data. So it's not easy to look at outcomes, particularly from claims data. We don't have a great, there are very few data sources that have detailed enough outcomes, I think, for that to be the case. That being said, there have been a number of insurance companies who have retrospectively analyzed their risk by looking at claims and assessing conduct, and they've used that to predict the amount of medical negligence that probably occurs more routinely. But of course, you have to have so much review of these records. Many people have to agree that it was negligent, so coding it up itself is very difficult and costly. But I think everyone agrees that it'd be nice to have some sort of notice. All right. Can you help me out here?
Hold C down. That should get you all the way up. I think you have to go down
Okay.
to the left, like down where the bumpers, the counterintuitive pinball choice.
Ah, I see.
So left. Stuck in a loop.
There we go.
So shoot yourself up, and then it'll be like over that way a little bit. Yes. I mean, so there's a lot of data in case law history. I mean, presumably people are using machine learning to try to see patterns and things like that. I know there was a push for a while to have unbiased judging and sentencing decisions.
Yes.
Based on prior. I mean, the concern there was garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
Racist judge, it automatically makes the AI racist. And so, but is that becoming increasingly popular? Are people discussing that in this?
Wait, so you're saying I have to go this way?
Yeah, so probably down there.
Okay. Like low.
I'm guessing that.
Okay.
Yeah, so let that fall down. I think you might be at the boss soon.
Okay.
This is the one I played a lot with. So I might remember some of these.
Excellent.
Levels. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely the case, and that's been suggested, especially for judges. And like you say, garbage in, garbage out, and that's a concern. But we also do want some equity.
Yeah. I mean, so in terms of your, do you have classes where people are doing this, like computer programming and related things?
That's not, no. It's more about, I think, generally being a lawyer is a lot about learning how to use people with expertise.
I see.
Rather than developing your own expertise. You will always encounter a case that you don't have actual expertise in doing. You're just trying to be a person who can translate and find what's consequential about the expert.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. So I teach a law and economics course, which ultimately is trying to get students to use economic data even though they're not themselves economists, how do you become sophisticated consumers so that you can interact with that kind of data? Ugh, this is awful.
Mitch wants to know, do you think that AI will make the roles of transactional lawyers obsolete and result only in need for litigation lawyers instead?
So I think AI is going to affect both of them. And no,
So
it's
what's
nothing
the
is
difference between a transactional and a litigation?
So most anyone who's doing, very few lawyers are litigators. Trials are vanishingly rare.
I was going to say, it's not all a few good men. Yeah.
It's almost never a few good men. Maybe only in jagged.
Military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the issue with that is that AI will impact a lot of the research that goes into litigation. And yeah, litigators will still be important, but a lot of things continue to settle. And I can imagine that will actually change that fewer things will settle going forward, given that we have so much information. Law and economic theory actually suggests that the more parties agree on the outcomes at trial, the more information they have and the more their beliefs are the same, they're going to settle. It would be wasteful to go to trial, basically. And so maybe litigation would also be affected. And nothing's going to be obsolete. I think, unfortunately, that's what people think about as a straw man to comfort themselves. They're, we can't be obsolete. You can't be obsolete, but you could have very much fewer jobs available. And that's what we should be thinking about, is what is the relative value added at this point.
Well, that makes sense. And so when you're talking about using experts, that's, you want experts as your witnesses for trial. What I learned via my jury duty experience is you don't want experts on jury.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm very excited to hear that. Yeah.
Well, I'll just give you my story.
Yeah.
When I was in Los Angeles as a grad student in chemistry, I got called to jury duty in downtown Los Angeles, and I went there, and it ended up being a DWI case. And so I went through, and they asked people, one of the first questions was, does anyone know how a breathalyzer works? My answer was yes. So electrochemical oxidation, blah, blah, blah. And I explained that. And so they're like, oh, well, I'll get back to you later.
Yeah.
They already flagged me because I was a chemist. So, then they followed up with me, and the question sequence was something along the lines of, could you make your decision solely based on what the expert says rather than your knowledge?
Yeah.
And that was like, okay, I can probably do that. But the follow-up question was, could you stop yourself from thinking those thoughts?
And you're like any psychologist would say, no.
and I asked them that. I'm like, is that possible? And they're like, some people say they can. I'm like, well, I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I will critically analyze. And that was it. That was gone.
Yeah. No, that's why law professors are never on juries. Although we desperately want to be, because a lot of us just want to know how juries operate. Yeah. It's very curious for us, and never.
I mean, so can you explain that rationale to the general audience, why they don't like experts on the jury?
Yeah. I mean, for the reasons you're kind of suggesting.
You've had the time.
Amazing.
So I think the issue was you weren't in ball form when hitting him. And I think it was hurting you, but it's fine.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm also happy to switch to Nintendo.
Switch over
to Mario. Whenever.
Let's do a transition to Mario. Another classic. Were you Sega or Nintendo?
My sister was predominantly Nintendo, and then we eventually got a Sega. So
you were both. You weren't on a faction side.
I was not. I was watching both.
That's fair.
I think if anything, this has proven is that I was 100% watching.
If any of you want to look at Elissa's bio, she was very upfront.
I was upfront about this. This is your fault, guys.
Degree in video gaming.
Yeah.
I know you said it was the equivalent of Taylor Swift's PhD.
Exactly.
Honorary.
That's right.
With that said, you do know these games. You're doing fine for having not played in like 20 some years, right?
It's been a while. But yeah, the idea should be that that they should be lay opinions that we're getting from the jury, and we want the jury to have a basis on which to give that opinion. We give considerable discretion to a jury, and I think we'd be wrong to suggest, that jury background doesn't affect how they think about things. But people don't like that. Lawyers, from a strategic reason, don't want that. They want their own.
Yeah, they want to shape the narrative.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Sometimes there are hidden things here.
I mean, it makes sense. It was like, I'm the best person to assess this, but
yeah, no, they're not gonna.
their lens.
They're not gonna want that.
It's kind of fun as I wrote a blog post about my experience doing that, and it got picked up by Nature Chemistry, which is a journal. They wrote a story about it. So yeah, it was my first foray into internet fame via blog post.
Yeah.
was that one. So
are you seeing me die 3 times?
So if you hold B, you'll run faster.
Okay.
And that'll let you jump a little bit higher. So the longer you hold A, the higher you jump.
There we go.
Yep. We got over the first barrier.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us, Ask a Scientist Gaming, mediocre gameplay, expert science, in this case, expert law/economics. Do you consider yourself a scientist as an economist?
No.
I mean, this is something we've talked about on stream a bunch, because I've had like music theorist things. But,
really?
I mean,
do they consider themselves scientists?
Not necessarily, but they still use scientific method, right?
Yeah.
It's hypothesis driven. They're modeling systems. They're predicting behaviors. So it's not explicitly science experiments, but
no.
The intellectual framework is similar.
No, I would consider myself a social scientist, which means that I have like no randomization, hopes for randomization.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of techniques to deal with the fact that everything's very endogenous.
Yeah. That is, I don't envy dealing with people.
Yeah.
People are hard.
They are hard. But I also think it's great to say what you are, and I'm not a scientist.
No, that's fair. But
yes, we do rely on hypothesis testing. I'm an empirical person, and so you need a good model to frame the analysis, so you don't just go digging around for stuff.
So speaking of science, so how was the LSAT for you?
It was a standardized test.
Yeah. But you had an economics bachelor's, right? Going into that? Okay.
That's right. So right now, there's actually a push in law schools to no longer require the LSAT. You just do the GRE.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. If you remember the GRE, it's kind of an interesting fit. Because pretty much everybody scored like 100% on the English. And yet, and you miss one question on the math, and you are, you're in the 90th percentile. You don't have to get anything. So the distribution is so skewed, it's hard to see how that will work for law schools who really care about verbal. It's not the best distribution for that.
And what's funny about that is we've abandoned GREs. Actually, most like psychology, chemistry, physics, biology, because it's not a good predictor for grad school success.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what do you use then?
I mean, it's mostly, GPA is a reflection of some sort of resilience, right?
Okay,
and then if they have any research experience that shows they at least know what they're getting into. But like the skill set that gets you a high GPA is not the same that makes you a good scientist.
Yeah, sure.
So and there's been studies on this over and over again. But I mean, a lot of law schools coursework, right? So it is probably a reflection of something in that.
So I think, what's interesting is a lot of times it shows analytical skills that you'll need. And of course, a lot of reading and writing. So again, AI. It doesn't make writing less important. It makes it more important. And so that's, I think, one of the major skills that we try to give our students. And I think the LSAT is probably a better predictor of that. That being said, a lot of times students don't come in with the best writing ability generally. And the question, I think, is how can we supplement that? Can we supplement that? And how quickly?
I mean, that's so do you teach writing, or is it just you're expected to write and you'll do it over and over again until you're good at it?
I don't teach writing, and we don't really teach them legal writing. Legal writing is mostly about researching and writing specific legal briefs. So it's not really about persuasive writing necessarily. So they should come in with writing skills. Increasingly, though, it becomes difficult. They don't have a lot of undergrad experience with
I mean, but the hard part is even if they have undergrad experience, it's not that style of writing, presumably.
Yes. I think what did you do in undergrad? I did a lot of writing, even being I had a writing heavy degree, I guess, but.
Yeah, for us, it's mostly testing, right? You have testing, you have some lab reports, but again, it's like, here's the format of a lab report. We never actually teach writing skills.
Yeah.
And this is something we've discussed a lot at the graduate level is do we replace one of our classes? Like I'm teaching group theory and inorganic spectroscopy, which is a very nuanced, specific thing that was super relevant 70 years ago, but it's tradition to teach it. And it's like, if I replace that with a soft skills class where it's like, here's how you survey data, here's how you write a paper, here's how you write a review, here's how you teach it, or do a presentation even, like formatting,
Right.
how you make graphs. I'd argue that's a more important skill set, but it is, there's a traditionalist versus not kind of lens on that.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting, especially for a field where I imagine you can very much distinguish yourselves by being good communicators.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I get invited to give talks because I'm good at presenting. Like with science aside, like I tell jokes. So let's have Ken, he's entertaining. But it's like, it's one of those things we want to believe we're in this bastion of purity where all that matters is your scientific prowess. And the reality is you have to present it well. You have to write well. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I think for our students, a lot of times their writing is their calling card. And so so I'm treating it like you can press it only once, but you can press it longer, right, to jump higher.
The longer you hold it, the higher you jump.
All right.
Yep.
There we go. All right. Yes.
Do you want to have a guess at how fast, the fastest time someone has ever beat this game in?
I don't want to know. What is it?
So it's called, I don't know if you're familiar with speed running, but it's just running games as fast as you can. And you will be because you're doing it with NARC tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
If you don't want to venture a guess, the answer is good.
The whole game.
Yep. The entirety of Mario 1.
5 minutes.
4 minutes and 54 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Look at me.
They use the warp zones and they beat the levels in a row as quickly as possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
4 minutes and 54 seconds. So, all right. Macaroon Granola has redeemed request a factoid.
Okay.
So, another knowledge bomb you'd like to drop.
So I've told you med malpractice. I'm going to tell you about a behavioral bias called hindsight bias. So I don't know if anyone's heard of this, but basically the idea is once you know the outcome of something, so usually it has to do with a risk, like the risk that a bridge burns. Once you know that it has burned, you, in retrospect, estimate the likelihood of it happening, period, as higher. Now, to be clear, you're not saying in the future, my belief that this is going to happen is revised to be higher than it was previously. That would be rational. Instead, you're saying, I always knew that this was going to be a high risk. And that's called hindsight bias. And this matters for jury trials for obvious reasons, because we only get to court when something has happened. And so if juries update their beliefs about what people should have believed at the time, based on the fact that a bad thing happened, then you're more likely to find something to be negligent, something that they should have prepared for. The fun thing about hindsight bias is that for the studies that we've done on them, it seems like informing participants about hindsight bias doesn't actually debias them. So you can tell people, hey, by the way, there's this thing called hindsight bias in which you can mispredict probabilities based on knowing the outcome. And it's not enough to get them to not make a more accurate prediction.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pernicious.
Self-regulated.
Exactly.
It's so deep-seated.
Wow.
Yeah. That's brutal. Is there any cool examples off the top of your head of this bias? I mean, the bridge one is an example.
Yeah. So the concern is usually that it shows up in medical malpractice. Because medical malpractice is usually asking, should the doctor have known that this could have happened and done something different? Was it negligent that they failed to do something? Now, the funny part is, empirically, juries very rarely convict doctors. this could be for two reasons. One, it could be that juries actually like doctors. Doctors are sympathetic characters.
Yeah.
It also could be that doctors have more to lose from a malpractice trial. Do you want to help get me through that?
Oh, yeah.
So doctors have more to lose from malpractice because of their reputation. And so they would have what we call asymmetric stakes. It's not just the money that they lose, they have something else. Because of that, wow, look how quickly you amazing.
To be fair, this is one of the games I've played a lot.
About my skill.
No one here is judging you, I promise.
So if they have more to lose by losing, they might settle very aggressively. And because of that, then the only cases that they bring to trial are cases that they know that they'll win. So that's one way to think about this crazy win rate. Okay. Or it could just be that juries don't like to convict defendants that are doctors. So it's hard to figure out which story is correct, but hindsight bias does not seem to be the primary driver of medical malpractice, though that's the boogeyman that people have.
That's interesting. Man, I probably have a different type of bias because every medical doctor you've ever met has taken general chemistry.
Oh, really?
Teach that class. And it's like, oh, you should never be a doctor. But you're probably
going to be a doctor.
And then like, I'm going to walk into a doctor's office once and be like, oh, I recognize you.
Yeah.
So that's
how important is it for doctors, though, at the end of the day?
Actual chemistry, not that important.
Because isn't it filtered through a lot of different things?
The thing is, and
what should I do here?
Wait for it to go down and then jump across. Yeah, so like commit, go all the way.
Now.
Go and another jump.
Yes. All right.
And so one thing I try to tell students is when they go into med school, they're thinking they're going to be housed, right? And they're going to be fighting these really exotic cases, finding,
it's almost always a zebra.
Exactly. And it's like, sometimes it is just lupus, right?
Yeah.
So for the most part, what they do as like family practitioners is customer service. Like, and that's their primary role. And there's been studies that show, it's more effective when you have interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. It's important to acknowledge what their role actually is. Because rarely is it diagnosing something that's hard to diagnose. It's mostly, and they've had studies on this too, like AI is pretty good at diagnosing most things. It's like,
that's kind of my point about the experts, is that oftentimes we think, oh, well, I found the zebra, right? But what's generally an unconventional presentation of a horse.
Yeah.
And AI usually does a better job of
JPZ, so being a doctor is not like the hit TV show. All right, that leads me to one of my favorite questions. We touched on this already. I've watched a lot of movies. We've been cord cutters for decades, so my Letterboxd account is almost up to 6,000 movies.
Okay, so wow.
One of my favorite things to ask experts is, what movie gets your discipline right, and what gets it wrong, or TV show. So we talked about House getting malpractice wrong.
Yeah, big time. I'm really sorry. I always get that wrong. So I think that for me, it's a lot of the malpractice. So the way that they depict the amount of time that doctors have to do informed consent with patients, I think that's hilarious. I tend not to like legal dramas. I'm sure that probably doctors feel the same way about medical dramas. It just feels very irritating. How to Get Away with Murder is hilarious because that's technically a crim law class. I would love my students to weigh in on whether their current crim law class is similar to that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, just even the Chicago ER, it's more Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, I wish it was. I've actually never watched Grey's Anatomy. I think my soaps should be, daytime.
So no one gets the law practice right. The one we talked about with Jeff Kahn in the classic is My Cousin Biddy.
Yeah. I've not watched it, but I do know it, yeah.
I guess they use that one as an example.
Yes. What's nice about any kind of depiction of a trial is that there's always surprise evidence. Surprise evidence that's introduced mid-trial. That cannot happen.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
It's discoveries.
Yes,
right?
exactly. You have to show the opposite side what you have. Everything's much more boring than people suggest.
So you'd be surprised. A lot of these, it's just easier when you go fast.
Oh my
and you
God.
kind of have to know what you're doing.
This is very sad to see. That took less than a minute.
So a disclaimer on this, though. So I used to speed run this one. So I've done it in 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And so at one point I was ranked 176.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm of the games you can choose, this is going to be the one I'll be best at. So.
Excellent. So we'll just make sure you keep helping me out here.
Mitch, the whole reason I went to law school is because the hit show Suits.
Yes.
That's from Peyton.
So that's... Sorry to hear that.
Suits is the perfect representation of the law from what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Yeah.
I should have jumped. Okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, it's perfect. Actually, isn't that the guy who didn't go to law school, right? That's the whole point. He just passed the bar, and that was cool because he was smart, and it's totally fine.
Like Community. Jeff Winger.
Like Community. Exactly.
Talked about that earlier.
Jeff Winger. Ugh.
What?
No, I think it's...
That's where he's like how to argue. Here's how you do it.
I know. Draw a line around the truth. Oh, that's something stupid. Everything Jeff Winger says is stupid. That's my answer.
That gets it wrong. Okay.
Everything that he says about lawyering shows that he never went to undergrad. Maybe he went to law school. He went to He says he went to law school, but not undergrad. What would be the point of that?
And so we have the med school joke that you call the lowest ranked student in med school doctor, right? The same thing with lawyer, right? There are students shouldn't be getting through, but
yes,
still do.
But they do.
Yeah. So they're the Jeff Wingers of the world.
Yeah, I believe that.
So one movie I wanted to talk to you about, or one scene from a movie. This goes under the risk and uncertainty. It's not law related. This is more of like insurance related. But have you seen Fight Club?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so there's a scene where Ed Norton's character, I'd recommend it. It's a really fun, I don't know if fun's the word, but it's a really good movie. But Ed Norton is a insurance adjuster.
Okay.
And he talks about his job, and he's basically framing it in the context of, okay, this car started on fire because of some defect, right? And there's this analysis they do. How many cars are on the road? What's the probability of this event occurring? And what's the money cost if this event does occur? And if that total cost is more than the recall cost, then it's worth doing the recall. If it's not, and is that the kind of real uncertainty analysis people do?
So we talk about this a lot in terms of economic analysis of law, how sometimes explicit assessment of risk can be seen as heartless and really plays poorly with the jury.
Yeah.
So what you really don't want to do is ever have that be discovered.
Yeah.
Even though, if we were going to be honest and rational, companies are thinking about probabilities of loss a lot. And I think it's an important thing to think about. It's not that it's the wrong thing to think about, but it doesn't play well with juries. So it sounds like if they're thinking about a negligence standard, sometimes people think about, so are they saying that's what you need to figure out to see if it'll be negligent not to?
In their case, they're just doing a cost benefit, whether they should recall something or say there's a certain amount of acceptable death that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. So that's very interesting. So, people love to reduce their risk of death to zero, but that's just practically impossible.
Yeah.
And so people don't like to hear that. In fact, in surveys, we often find that people are willing to pay premium to reduce their chance of death all the way to zero or illness of any kind. And unfortunately, that's just impossible. There's no such thing as zero risk. And so there's always going to be some level of acceptable risk that we are willing to take. So do you think you drive the safest car? No, I don't.
No, well, I drive a minivan, so that's not bad. But, the safest car in terms of the person driving is like an F-150, right? But they're not safe for anyone else.
They're not safe for anyone else.
Yeah.
So there's always ways that basically you can, I know as soon as I jump up, he's going to come up. Yeah. We're running out of time?
Yes.
Oh, damn it.
But you have firepower. You
I
can't
do.
lose it now. So.
I can't lose. Yeah, that's true.
So you have to get a running start on this jump. I'm holding B on that.
Ugh, no.
Yeah, speed. Let's see if I can get through. This is,
That's what I should have done. Yeah.
I'm just going.
Yeah, I need to keep taking more advantage of this whole can't die thing. Though it seems like I can die a lot.
7 Mario seconds left.
Hey, nice. Well done.
We take those victories. All right. Do you want more of this guy? You want to try?
I want to try the Avanade. So this is a fantastic, I'm going to just pause that real quick. It's a fantastic, I think, very accessible one. This is a high, it's a high alcohol content, but very delicious. So I appreciate a scotch that is spicy. So to Mitch P, this is an Avalor Avanade. So Mitch is my, that's my sister. So she's had the Avalor Avanade. There we go.
Spicy.
So this is actually a Speyside, so it's not actually that spicy, but the alcohol content mimics a very excellent kick in the face.
That's perfect. Well, cheers,
Cheers.
Elissa. Thank you for joining me. Your hesitancy, it's slightly justified, but the gameplay's been fun.
Yeah.
The conversation.
I mean, I'm hoping that people are getting a kick, making themselves feel better, at least.
And this will be on YouTube forever.
Oh my God. Amazing. Ugh, okay, so.
Yeah, so this one you tap A, you're swimming around. Nice part is, as long as you don't go down a hole, you will not die on this level.
That's nice.
Now you just swim, you can go to the top of the screen and stay off the ground.
Oh, there we are.
I mean, so you mentioned juries not liking that analysis, but at some point, like if somebody goes under, anesthesia, their probability of death is, 0.1%, and those numbers are known, even if for a healthy individual.
Yeah.
But that's not discussed at trials because they avoid it.
So it's not so much that you'll have to, especially for a med malpractice trial, you have to prove causation. So you say, but for this negligent act, this injury wouldn't have occurred. And the fact that, even done correctly, you have a non-negligible chance of dying affects that. So you have to say it. It's just that any kind of indication that the company has, and consider that as a numbers issue, that does not usually play well with a jury because then it looks like you don't care.
Yeah. I mean, does that drive you crazy as an analytical person?
Absolutely.
I mean, for me, that's like, so my colleagues were all scientists, right? We're research-based. We were experts in our particular domain of moving electrons around for whatever purpose. But as soon as you talk about like pedagogy and educational theory, all that goes out the window. It's just free for all. Whatever you think is right. It doesn't matter what the reresearch says.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like we abandon our mode of expertise as soon as it goes outside of that domain.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
That's what the jury's doing, right?
Yes, except that we didn't even have that to start necessarily. I mean, with juries, it's tough because numeracy is huge. We give them numbers often, and they need to know what to do with those numbers. And yet numeracy in the U.S., I can't speak to outside the U.S., is hideously low. People are very uncomfortable with numbers, and so you're never quite sure what will confuse the jury.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we're trying to make sure that we're not confusing the jury by the actual facts that you're presenting to them.
I mean, do you feel, you've been in academia now 5 years, well, you've been in it longer as a student as well. I mean, do you feel a detachment from the average person? Like for me to understand what it's like to look at climate change and not understand it, whereas I can tell isotopic ratios in ice core samples and what that means. Like, do you feel that on a legal front?
I think I probably feel a little bit on the legal front, especially when certain political issues get discussed, and sometimes it's a very broad, unnuanced articulation of them. But I think even more so from an economic perspective,
Oh,
when
yeah.
people think about risk, when people talk about the economy, when they think about what free market can and cannot do, yeah, there's a big difference, and you don't realize it until you have conversations. I think what's really nice about teaching, though, is that you're constantly forced to find better ways to express yourself, which I find to be helpful. So that has been a really helpful process for me as a, not just as an instructor, but as a researcher to communicate that.
Makes sense. All right, Macaroon Granola wants to know, are you of the opinion that the new developing economies of space colonization, ooh, that's going a fun direction,
yeah.
will inevitably lead to mission failures and adverse medical outcomes that require litigation and legislation of some type?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, I think the question is, who is a jury of their peers at that point? So is it only people who live in that area? Because usually we'd like to pull from a jury pool locality. And if not, how can you instruct the jury on the realities of space colonization? Can an Earther really speak to what it's like to live in the belt? That's actually the topic of my next law review article. No.
Might as well. Somebody's got to get there first. Aliens, should they be on juries?
Exactly.
We don't know.
No. Do you read the what is it called? The Expanse.
No, I haven't.
So it's a sci-fi. I'm terrified of lava, despite the fact that I just jump into it. So it's about Earthers and then people who have lived outside the belt, so the asteroid belt, who, because of the gravity there, tend to be longer and leaner, and they're called belters. So for long enough periods of time of being out of the Earth's gravitational pull, they are... You're going to get me through this one. They actually change entirely. And so the question is, their animosity towards Earthers may not make them a very... unbiased
Got
jury.
you a mushroom.
Excellent.
As long as you don't fall down the hole.
All right.
We'll get you back there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, so do you have any strong opinions about jury versus judge-based trials?
So kind of for the same reasons that I said about hindsight bias, I do worry a little.
Nice. I'll get you a mushroom.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Actually, get me past that. How about that?
Let's get over the gap.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm that confident about the ability of juries to handle behavioral biases like this. Judges have trouble with this. From research, we've surveyed judges and their susceptibility to behavioral biases, and they're not immune either. But they can do slightly better, and enough interaction, perhaps we think that we can train them. There are judicial education programs that I've been a part of, teaching judges about things like risk, things like probabilities, and how to analyze scientific data. And so it's not like, all right, what do we have to do? There we go.
Perfect.
So at least they have some buy-in.
Yeah. Well,
But
I mean,
we like a jury because we like punting things to a jury and saying, well, the jury has discretion.
jury's a mistake. I mean, you don't want authoritarian, obviously, right? That's crowdsourcing it to individuals, but
Yeah, I mean, and it's nice to get, their perspective on this. But I don't know. I think one question is, what are we hoping to get from it? I'll get it out.
I mean, it's originally outlined, at least in the American system. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. It was more of a, we don't want an authoritarian state. We don't want unaccountable, we want individuals to have input.
Yeah, that's true. We do like the jury of our peers, but we're also getting into areas of law that are incredibly more technical than we've had in the past. So like
true.
for a products liability case, do we really want, how does a jury think about these the evidence that's been presented to them? We have experts to deal with that, but it depends on how well they can differentiate between good experts and bad experts. And it's just a battle of the experts at the end of the day. So are we really educating them, or is it just another form of persuasion at the expert level. Is it experts that basically, do I just hold down? Yeah.
Yep. The rage slam. We actually have an Aaron Minucci rage emote. He's playing Madden and he rage quit.
Excellent.
You're not the first to be frustrated.
Yeah, that'd be what I'm doing here. So, and then kind of to your point about whether or not you are just a person who has a lot of charisma. If at the end of the day we're just doing charisma, can you do this for me?
Yeah.
That's a real issue because we're not.
It's just on the downswing.
The downswing.
The jump.
Okay. Then we're really not accomplishing justice. We're doing another popularity contest.
But like any debate has come down to,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a frustrating system, to say the least.
Yeah.
What jurisdiction would Space Colony fall under? It's in the important questions here.
It's probably the Ninth Circuit.
It's always the Ninth Circuit. Oh man.
This is tough.
I mean, so you don't have to answer how you feel about these outcomes, but is there
Yeah.
discussions among your colleagues? Like, there's several recent and upcoming Supreme Court decisions. Like, do you guys sit around the water cooler and discuss presidential immunity? And
Some people do. My area is not comma, so it's not particularly my area.
yeah,
But yeah, that happens. So
nice.
yeah.
I would love to be on a fly on the wall on those conversations. So I regularly visit. You go to Reddit. I've
Yes,
been on there.
I have.
I mean, there's a law subreddit. Like, and people have flair whether they're actual lawyers or not. I do like to see.
Do you believe them?
I mean, it's like ChatGPT. They give
Right.
answers that seem like they're right.
Yeah.
Not enough of an expert to discern them, but
I worry about the people who particularly seem right.
I don't know their verification process, but like I'm verified on RFSU because I had to show my ID as a professor actually. So I don't know what they require. You have to have a copy of your.
That's an interesting. Okay, interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I think I find less interest in a lot of the leaf reading. I'm not good at it, and you'd be surprised how much sometimes it deviates from your best predictions. So, but it's either fun or very depressing to think about. I often think it's a little depressing.
That was my follow-up. Like, do you grow more cynical as you learn more about the system, or are you more optimistic about the future?
Well, I'm definitely not optimistic about the future. I wouldn't say that.
Make no mistake. The future is bleak.
Yeah, definitely.
What do I know? I'm just a doctor.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to predict. Ironically and kind of sadly, some of the weirdest outcomes make for really great research designs.
Yeah.
So there is a silver lining in all of this.
Yeah. But I insist next time you make up a court case hypothetical, it involves the space station.
Oh, definitely.
You had to make one up right now. What would it entail?
Oh, it's a great question. I've really enjoyed. The thing about torts hypothetical is that you're trying to cram as many claims into one fact pattern as possible, and so you want people to get injured, but in the right way. And so, I mean, the weirdest people in the world, the most morbid people, are probably torts professors. I'm sure Jeff would agree with me, because we're always just like, but how could he get wounded in a way that he doesn't die, but has claims for these damages?
Yeah.
So, I think the question will be, I mean, I'll have to think about it. Watch out, kids.
Yeah. Student spoilers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun, though. Like,
Yeah.
it's creative space plus, actual space.
Exactly. But I think the question comes down to, what are the norms in space? And maybe space people will be more than reasonably prudent.
Yeah.
Like maybe we'll have, so usually we don't make allowances for a reasonably prudent person. We don't care about your experience. We don't care usually how old you are unless you're a child. We don't make allowances for those differences. The idea being that no one else knows that about you. So if you're interacting with an unperturbed or in public, you should be held to the standard of an average person. But maybe with space, I mean, that's a totally different context.
I mean, the jury of your peers in space, like
Yeah.
the selection pressure automatically, that's like a jury of peers in academia. It's a very different sample population.
Yeah. So much nicer, right? Not curmudgeon at all.
So I learned it depends on the area. So we had a
Who are the nice ones?
We had a colleague that recently moved from chemistry to biology, and I was asking him, like, which department do you like more? And he's not going to answer that.
Sure.
One thing he was willing to say is people in biology were nicer.
Really?
They were more warm and friendly and
Like
welcoming.
interpersonally?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And that's not off the wall in terms of like, when you look at the autism spectrum. Like the people that are further on the end of the autism spectrum are going to tend towards, physics and math and chemistry.
Right.
Whereas social sciences, it's much more, personal. It's like, at least as far as I can tell anecdotally. So yeah. We've had guests of all flavors on the stream.
So what have you?
I don't think there's a general trend because I think there's an intrinsic bias in the person that says yes to video gaming while talking.
That's
to the
true.
internet.
That's
It's gonna
true.
be that type of personality. I mean, with that said, I'm a mildly autistic introvert and like I play a character when I present. So I don't know. Masking is strong in most of us.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. It's curious to me that a biology and chemistry would be different because they're obviously different fields, but they're coming from hard sciences. They're having a lot of this shared. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'd see it like chemistry in general is much less personal. Like you don't have to look your research in the eyes. Where if you're a biologist, you do things like animal experiments.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Like there's a decision. Like if you're vegetarian or not, a biologist has to think about that.
Yeah.
And chemists not so much.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
In fact, there's an interesting trend in like religiosity. I mean, if you had to guess, biology, physics, or chemistry, who's most likely to be an atheist?
Oof. Biologist.
It is a biologist,
Yeah.
which most people you'd think, physics, understanding the world on a physical level, you should know that probably not a deity controlling physics.
But physics is a lot of math.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it depends on whether you define it as a personal God influenced dictation.
Sure.
Or the Einsteinian dozen roll dice.
Yeah.
But yeah, the prevalence of atheists is much higher amongst biologists than physicists.
Interesting.
And I did not expect that, actually.
Huh.
That'd be a fun prediction. Speaking
Yeah.
of, we haven't thrown a prediction up yet.
We have not.
Which one do you want to do?
Ooh.
Start with the
Yes. I have someone spoiled it. Maybe we have a
We'll
late
see who's paying attention
Yeah.
to the earlier VSL discussion. All right, so to give context into this one, VSL is
Sure.
the value of statistical life.
Yeah, so society values how much they're willing to pay to reduce one fatality statistically by reducing by risk reduction just generally.
So the question here is, how much is this is just like a general consensus in the community, how much is life worth? At least you said it much more elegantly than
Sure.
how much is a life worth, but that's basically the idea. So the question is, agency's value of a statistical life, is it greater than $2 million or is it less than $2 million? So those of you not familiar with predictions, these are basically questions we pop up. Usually they're video game related on Twitch, not on the stream. They are science, and our expert actually writes questions for the audience, so you guys get a taste of their interest and expertise. But if you click the predict button at the top of chat, it'll allow you to make a guess on which of these answers you think is more correct. Note you're on asking the Scientist Gaming Honor Policy, so don't Google the answer, just what you know from our discussion thus far. We discussed Sonic's VSL. The question is, what is a human being's VSL? And so, yeah, what is the general consensus on the value? How did you say it again?
The value of a statistical life.
Value of a statistical life. And so, yeah, well, what do you guys think the value is? Is it greater than 2 million or less than 2 million? So click the predict button. You can put as many internet units on as you want. If you're not following us, click the follow button. That'll give you 300 standard internet units to bet. And so mostly it's for pride. Those points are not worth anything outside this channel. But you can make us take a drink and or request a factoid, so that's worth something. So close.
So close.
So far.
So upset.
That encompasses so many events.
Yes. All right.
Oh, man. All right. Is it greater than 2 million or less than 2 million? You guys have about 30 seconds left to answer that question. And this is the one juries don't like talking about.
Yes.
That's tense. I'm curious to learn more about what goes into this. All right, 15 seconds left. Throw your predictions in there now. We have 1-1, but the amount bet each direction is very different.
Interesting.
All right, Elissa, what is the answer? Less than 2 million or greater than 2 million?
Greater than 2 million.
Greater
So
than 2 million. So
agencies, including, I'm going to pause this real quick, the OMB circular, which kind of summarizes what agencies do, suggested that they use between 10 and 12 million in 2022, as of 2022. And my research on it produces VSLs in that ballpark as well, which people are often surprised to find out that it's this high. And that's, I think, why it's important to think about a VSL, because if you don't, usually how this comes up is you have a proposal to improve a road and you know what those costs are, but you don't know what the value of the life saves would be. And if you don't have a monetary value, then you essentially price that at zero. And so it's important for us to assign some sort of value to it. And it's in this way, we are asking societally, what are we willing to pay to reduce this risk of fatality?
I mean, so what goes into that number? You're like, this is lifetime earnings, lifetime contribution to society. What is, how does that land on 10 million?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are many ways of you're gonna get me through this?
Yeah, I'll get you a monkey.
All right. Yeah, that's what I'm missing. There are many ways of calculating this. We use
Fireball.
revealed preference, and rather than a survey where you just ask people what they'd pay to reduce the risk of fatality by a certain amount. We use occupational data to see how people trade off additional compensation and additional risk in their occupations. And that's how we get a $10 million value. But you can do this also through a survey. We're really only looking for small changes in risk and looking at what people are willing to pay. So it's not that I'm actually preventing a known fatality. I'm reducing risk by a small amount so that on average, I'm saving one life. And how much I'm willing to pay eventually to create that difference of one life matters.
And so a follow-up on that. In your viewings of this risk and assessment malpractice, is there anything you don't do, like skydiving or riding a motorcycle or tonsillectomy? Like, has this influenced your decision-making in life?
I wish.
No.
No. So the thing is, you want to get me a mushroom? So unfortunately, I can't do a lot of those things anyway because I'm the most myopic person I think I've ever met.
Yeah.
And so I have a thinning retina, which means that on any sudden jerks, my retina can detach.
All right.
So
You've had that happen before?
I have not, thankfully. That's a whole
I
process.
was going to say that's a brutal recovery.
Yeah, I can imagine. So for things like that, it's really hard to come back from it. So that's not one that I'm going to try to do. If I ever got in a car wreck, I'd have to go to the ER because
Automatically.
just to make sure that it's attached.
Yeah.
Man. So unfortunately, no, but I wish I were.
Is there anything you don't let Matt do?
Actually, yes. So he wants to get a motorcycle. That's one of the things that he wants. But no, I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I told Matt that once I'm done with him, we've had all our good years together, then he can have a motorcycle, which I think is so sweet, right?
Motorcycles are crazy.
Why are you allowed to have a motorcycle?
No, I would never do it just from statistical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
But you'd be an organ donor, though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely an organ donor. But there's a subreddit called Meat Marker. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's exactly what it sounds like. If you run meat across tar, it acts like a marker, and yeah, that's enough to scare anyone.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, it's Even some of my grad students, like, they will bike without helmets. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not immortal. Do your research.
Yeah.
Come on.
Concussions are not great.
Exactly.
Head
Brain is
injuries,
the most valuable
Yeah.
thing you have. Like,
especially if you're a grad student.
get together. Yeah, exactly.
Your sports career has not worked out.
Exactly. Well, that's another one too. Like,
Yeah.
to have my kids play football, right? We've learned too much about CTE.
We've learned too much about it, which is interesting because the payments made for that, I don't think players are thinking about as prospective payments for injuries, which is basically a compensating differential for the risk of their occupation and physical injuries. And yet, if they don't think about it that way, then they are going to just not have that money for when they need that treatment. It's unfortunate.
All right, macaroon granola. This is interesting. What do you think would be the future outcome if a partisan congressional committee decides to relitigate the Vietnam War and indict the former Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, for committing war crimes?
Oh, I think you've mistaken me with a con law scholar.
No, not going to touch that one. Sorry, wow.
But I
That was
appreciate it.
deep.
I mean, do you want to write my torts exam for me? I love these hypotheticals.
Man, there was a book that came out. It was during the Bush presidency. Like, could you try him for war crimes?
Yeah.
Trying to make a convincing argument to me. Obviously, that's
It's not topical at all.
yeah, brutal. How far do you want to dive down that?
I do not.
That's fair. Just infuriating.
Yes.
We talked briefly about the health decisions being made. So one of the questions was if you have a surgeon general of a state that makes decisions that are in direct opposition to common medical decisions, I mean, is there some sort of responsibility, legal responsibility for that surgeon general? They're like, don't wear masks, even though the evidence says yes. Is there any legal repercussion there?
So, a lot of times, I don't know if this would be the case, but a lot of times courts will not take cases that are political questions. And so sometimes, well, not often necessarily this, but what they often are saying is sometimes there are just things that happen because political parties are voted in, and that's not really the jurisdiction of a court. And so you have to better luck next time. Ugh.
Oh, no, that's a good point. So
Yeah.
you voted for this.
So the question is there a legal basis for, I mean, the board, if he's a medical provider, technically a member of the part of the medical board, subject to the medical board could discipline him. But it's not clear that that's, I wanted that mushroom. I'm so bad at getting them. All right, get me a mushroom, please.
No problem.
So there could be that. In general, though, things like that are often, I think, more considered political. Like if the legislature passed a law that says, you don't have to have masks.
Yeah.
While that is bad medicine, it's not really. It's a political question.
Yeah. It's only a little depressing.
Elections have consequences. Everyone likes to say. So.
The first election I ever voted in was 2000. Bush v. Gore.
Yeah.
Decided by the Supreme Court.
Yep, right
Made
here.
decisions quick back in the day.
They did. Yeah.
Oh man. When I give tours to visitors, I'm like, oh, there's where they made that decision.
Yes. No, a lot of people, the law school hosted a conference around that time. So a lot of scholars come here and they say, oh, the last time I was here was in...
You remember the good old days?
All right, I'm going to make a request that you get me through this.
All right.
I almost finished.
Yeah. We got this. So the mushroom is always
Yes. But I wait there, but I don't jump for it. That's the issue. I mean, I don't think you could have made this easier for me if you try and still this is the thing.
But that's the thing, these games were unforgiving.
They were.
There's no even this jump is non-trivial if you're big.
Yeah. See how I'm shifting? This is what my sister had to do.
Huddle Puppy, welcome back. If we indicted ourselves for war crimes, Congress and the Pentagon would be ghost towns. Cuddle Puppy.
This is a solemn.
Yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole. What's a lighter note we can go to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like we need another prediction that's
which one do you
more
want to do?
fun. I mean, I think this one's a fun one.
Value of the statistical life is fun.
Apparently that really did spur some conversation.
Which one do you want to do?
The senior prom one.
Oh,
That's got to be fun, right? People can talk about their senior proms. All right.
that is fun. We got a personal question, ladies and gentlemen. You are not finding the answer to this on Google, presumably. Unless you've got a very detailed Wikipedia page on you that you don't know
That I
about.
don't know about. That is alarming.
Super detailed. All right, well, somebody needs to start it. But anyway, the question is, Elissa skipped her senior prom, true or false? So this is an interesting question, because on the one hand, I'm like, why would you ask?
Do I have to do both?
Yep, so you hold B. So yeah, your thumb holds the...
Photo, okay.
So yeah, you want
How would
to...
you-
It's like you hold the B button and then press.
And then press with like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We could switch to Burger King games. We have to do at least one.
All
I
right.
promised my students that's not a Burger King game.
Well, I wouldn't want to let down your students.
Yes, exactly. There are repercussions.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So, Elissa skipped her senior prom, true or false? What have you learned about the last hour and 45 minutes of Elissa's gameplay that would lead you to believe that she did or
Well,
did
she was not playing video games.
her senior prom? That's true. We should put did Elissa skip prom for playing video
We're
games.
playing video games. How sad would it be if that were true?
I mean, but, so do you cell phone game at all or anything like that? Or
No. No,
you do D&D though.
I do D&D because that's a game of the mind.
So I asked Jeff this. Did you see the D&D movie?
I did. Did you see the original? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Did you see the original D&D movie?
Which one is that?
2000, I want to say. It's with Jeremy Irons. It is something. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
remember that character. Oh my god.
That was
Hurts.
more than
Yes.
that. We rented it after hearing like how did this get made about it?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's maybe the worst movie I've ever seen.
No, that was.
But the new one was fun.
I
Jeff
like,
didn't like it, right?
I know. I think he. I don't know if he liked the overall movie, but he definitely appreciated that they captured the absurdity of D&D, right? Especially
Yes.
like you have 5 questions.
Exactly.
How does your dumbass waste 5 questions?
Exactly.
How do you capture that in a movie?
Right. Do you want to
Appreciated
help me
that.
with this jump?
So
There we go.
no
Now you feel like Elissa.
hitboxes, people.
You want to get me?
Oh no! Oh wow!
So vindicated.
No, that was Elissa playing. What you guys are
Yeah,
talking about.
exactly. I really enjoyed the second D&D movie.
Yeah,
It was fun.
that was a fun jaunt. I've never done D&D, like I'm familiar with it, but I've never
really?
committed to it.
So actually what happened is apparently Chris Pine thinks that it's the way that we're going to save this next generation by getting them to like talk about their feelings. I think that he watched Community.
Those are such good episodes.
Such good episode.
Oh my god, I'm not getting enough speed here. All right, should we
Yes, let's move to Burger King.
All
I
right.
think this is done for us.
All right, let me grab. We'll do Big Bumpin.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a special treat for you. So Elissa said she doesn't play video games. What should I play? And my default answer whenever anyone says that is actually Burger King games. And so this is going to sound crazy, but Burger King released a series of games. So go ahead and green button. Yep. We'll do this. So in 2006, Burger King released a series of games. So it started out as a website game, and then it was too good to be left on the website. And so they actually produced the games, which I have physical copies of. And so this was released for the Xbox, and it came out Holy shit, Cuddle Puppy knows. Sneak King is one of the games. But yeah, they released this in November 2006 to December 2006. There's a 1 month interval where you could buy this game.
Wow.
I picked up all three because they were $4 each, and they're way more fun than they have any right to be.
Amazing.
So Alyssa's gonna play some.
broiler?
This is called Big Bumpin.
Oh, big Bumpin. Okay.
So yeah, go ahead and pick
Fun?
which map you want to do.
Sure.
And this is just bumper cars. I think you
Soak
can
up
use the
some-
B button for speed boost, and the rest is just joystick. Sneak King is better than Super Mario 64. Oh man, that's a
Oh
bold one.
man, that is, yeah.
We might have to bust out some Sneak King. All right, let me catch up on a comment here. Cuddle Puppy says, in order to lighten the mood, Purdue Pharma made $35 billion from selling OxyContin, resulting in the death of 840,000 people. Luckily, they got paid $350 million in fines, or roughly $416 per person they killed, which is significantly less than the $10 million we discussed earlier.
Yes.
You wrote an article. I went through your title
Yeah.
for my tweet and everything, and one of them was, I don't know, it was the opioid crisis, but like, what do you do when the person supplying the drugs is the doctor?
Yeah.
Is that the,
So, yeah, the basic idea is how do we disentangle a lot of causation here, because doctors who prescribe a lot of opioids also might be treating a group that is particularly needing pain medication. So pain management is an undervalued part of the story. So you have a lot of patients getting unnecessary opioids, but you also have cancer patients who need a lot of pain management. So how do you get both pain management while keeping drugs out of the hands of people who would sell them? Over prescriptions usually lead to resale on another market. And so what we were doing there is seeing whether or not payments between pharmaceutical companies and physicians correlated with the number of things that they prescribed, which they do, and they could be for many reasons. But then we also looked at the implementation of these prescription drug management programs. Basically, they're records of who prescribed what. I'm never going to get these. Who prescribed what, and so other physicians can see who's prescribing other stuff to their patients. What we find is basically the implementation of these PDMPs reduce the correlation between payments and prescriptions. So that correlation no longer is as strong in mitigation. And so one thought might be, well, once you realize that people are recording your prescriptions, you're less likely to abuse that authority because people can see what you're actually prescribing. It might be some accountability, even if it's not really made for that purpose.
Yeah.
So we thought that was interesting. But yeah, we do think a lot about the nature of the claims against the pharmaceutical companies. What's the nature of their influence with physicians? Because there are many ways that correlations like that can just happen because they're treating a population for which the drug might be important. And we want to make sure that we're not making we're not mistaking that for just that.
So speaking of pharmaceutical regulations, are you familiar with, this is an important, I guess, case study that we use in chemistry all the time, but are you familiar with thalidomide?
Yes.
In the 1960s? You guys discuss that?
I discussed it in one of my papers. I can't remember what.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very interesting.
I'm curious
Yes.
what your lens, if you could recount the story to the audience.
if I'm
you look at it
correct,
very differently than me.
This is actually the thing that prompted the FDA to start thinking about efficacy as well as safety.
Oh,
maybe
really?
that's wrong. Maybe it's another thing, but that was in 1962, so maybe that's wrong. But it was a huge safety issue. You take this drug. I believe pregnant women took the drug, and then their children were born with birth defects, and so now the thalidomide is still being sold under a different name, actually.
Yeah.
So it's it hasn't gone, but now they have new significant safety warnings on this, and so it was a very public and very tragic example of how the FDA wasn't actually. Let me go back. Wasn't doing their job of protecting people with pre-market approval. So this is an unnecessary factoid, perhaps, but. A lot of people don't know that even though a drug is approved, you can still bring a tort claim against it, a common law claim. That regulatory compliance is not a bar to suing a company for product defects and things like that. And that's not the same necessarily for devices. So It's an interesting kind of, I think, case study for what the FDA needs to do. What are their obligations? How much risk do they have to reduce? And what can be regulated through the tort system after it enters the market? And what do we really want to make sure gets taken care of before the market, the drug reaches the market?
So from a I don't know how much you know about the chemical foundation behind this, but the reason we talk about it regularly is so thalidomide it's called a chiral molecule, which means it has a left-handed and a right-handed form. So it has a mean that can go up or down, and depending on which one it does, it's left-handed or right-handed. And so the relevance of the big picture is your body is left-handed or right-handed. All humans, like DNA, has a helices it's left-handed. Your amino acids are all right-handed, and so you interact with drugs differently. In fact, like smells are an example. The difference between the lemon smell and the orange smell is whether it's left or right-handed.
Oh, interesting.
Thalidomide had a left and right-handed. And so one of the versions of it was for treating morning sickness.
Yeah.
And the other version of it caused teratogenic effects, which in the limbs. And so if they were able to administer one, it would treat morning sickness. But because it had the other hand, the other problem is in the body, this particular molecule turns from left to right-handed. So even if you purify one of the person, it's still going to cause birth defects.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, and then my understanding of the story of this happened in Europe. It was really a big effect in Europe. But in Russia and the U.S., it was never approved. In the U.S., it wasn't approved not because of the concern for this, but some other concern.
Interesting.
And it happened to be accidentally right in this case.
Wow.
So,
yeah. No, it's a very interesting kind of, it's also the way we perceive risk.
Yeah.
It's a good question. So we talk about this in torts, not thalidomide, but DES. Do y'all think about that in chemistry?
DES?
So it's I cannot think of the actual chemical name, but it's a generic compound, diestyl something or another. But basically, a pregnant woman takes it, and it only produces injuries once their child reaches adulthood. And so you have a significant time gap between, taking it and knowing. And so people are bringing these product liability claims against the companies, and they don't know which company produced the drug that their mom took way back when. Their mom probably doesn't even know. Yeah. So we actually created a different form of, try King's Court. Yeah.
Maybe try which one? That one right there is a hockey game.
This one?
That one, yeah.
Okay.
So you have a puck to bounce around. It's kind of fun.
So we created a new theory of causation to address this, which is called market share liability. So usually you'd have to prove that whatever injured you actually injured you. The injury wouldn't have happened but for them acting. But since no one could really connect their injury to a particular company, because it was a generic drug, lots of companies produce this, we started allowing a recovery by market share. So you drag a couple companies into court, and based on the market share that they constitute, you get a proportion of your damages back. So if you drag in 75% of the market, if it's substantial enough, then you get 75% of your damages, and you recover from them by their market share.
Wow. So it wasn't that you didn't even have to prove direct causality to say this was your portion of the market, this is your portion of the penalty.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's because you couldn't. There was really no way to do it. And it was such a uniform good and it was so widely created that the court basically said, well, maybe you didn't injure this person, but you definitely injured somebody, so we don't feel unjust by giving you holding you accountable for proportional damages. It might be different if it was, where am I? If it was kind of an idiosyncratic drug, very few people took, very few people received injuries from, but because it wasn't, we're actually going to relax this causation requirement and allow people to recover without proof of it necessarily being your drug. Now, companies...
That's an interesting play on burden of proof, right? Because you didn't actually prove that it was them, right? And I'm sure their lawyers fought back hard. That this was presumably a really interesting case.
Yes, and now companies can rebut that evidence by saying, I didn't actually operate in the state, so I couldn't have been your person, but the burden shifts to them, which is interesting, definitely a reversal of what we'd usually expect. So this looms large in the lawyer's mind, but it's only ever been actually made for this one drug. So it's never been used outside of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is intriguing. All right, macaron granola. Didn't thalidomide act as a cure for disease leprosy that recently was discovered to be caused by an amoeba host carrier? Yeah, that's why it's still on the market under generics. They don't recommend it for pregnant women for obvious reasons, but nice skull. Congratulations. GG's, we take those. How are you feeling about Big Bumpin, the Burger King franchise?
Oh man, I'm doing amazing. I think, since I can't do bumper cars because my retina will it's the only way I can, yeah, exactly. If my retina detaches from this, then that's going to be
I take no responsibility.
Hey.
The internet takes responsibility on that. But yeah, thalidomide is still sold and it's useful for other things. But that's part of the FDA process, right? All those qualifiers on the commercials are going to cost this consult with a doctor if you're pregnant. All of that written and blood, obviously, for these reasons.
Yeah.
So it goes. All right. Macaron granola. What do you think about museums that have historical objects that are obtained from other countries on questionable terms? And should they be returned? Which agency should decide rightfully?
You're outside of my expertise.
Umbrella of law.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Property law?
Property? Not like 1L property, I'll tell you that. It's interesting. It is it's also international in some ways, and a lot of this is war related, so it gets complicated.
Yeah, so that the Cuddle Puppy says that question's 4 weeks late. We had a guest on who's actually a historian / librarian.
Oh, really?
So yeah, he does information science.
Ah.
Yeah, it's Paul Martin.
Okay.
I can't remember what school he's from. He's from, I think, communications and social sciences. But yeah, that was a fun one because he does like museum processing, how you go through the museum, interface technology with museums and things like that. Cuddle Puppy Ken, do you remember Chex Quest? I do not. Is that a game?
Is that the cereal?
The quest to eat all of the Chex.
Listen,
Quest.
I'm playing a Burger King game. Anything is possible. Yes, it is.
It's a game that the company that was like the prize at the bottom of the box. I never played this.
Interesting.
Platform Windows MS-DOS. It uses the Doom engine, which is fun. That was released in 1996. No, I never played it. Oh, there's the link. Doom clone made by Chex.
Interesting.
Oh my God. Cuddle Puppy, I need to try it. Next time I'm the guest on the stream, I promise I'll play some Chex Quest. Remind me next time I'm on. So yeah, we've actually started doing our graduate recruiting via this Twitch stream.
Oh, really?
We invite prospective students to ask any questions they have.
Well, there you go.
And we're hip with it because we're playing video games.
Yeah, apparently.
Kids come to FSU.
I think I finally realized what I'm supposed to do in this game.
It depends on the game type.
It really depends.
5, 4, try to hit the thing with the goal.
3, 2.
I mean, we should try some sneaking just because the game is so absurd. It's that way. Yeah, that's one of the other games. And Huggy Bear acknowledged it. A non-violent first-person shooter.
Non-violent. That's interesting.
It's like Splatoon, right? The Nintendo shooting game.
Oh no.
All right. We didn't answer our prediction. Alyssa, your prompt true or false? Everyone said true.
Yes, it's phrased, I think, in a.
Okay.
But the story is fun. I actually ditched my date to go to an economics competition. So unfortunately, that relationship was not long-lived, but my relationship with economics flourished, I would say. So.
That's totally worth it.
Yeah, totally.
Matt, do you have any more opinion?
I think he is my biggest respect. For many reasons, ditch that date.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Strongly support. Cuddle Puppy has a quote from the release of, what's it called? It was Chex Quest. On release, the game received largely positively by the players. Consumers of diverse ages gave the enthusiastic feedback, and there are many requests for development of sequels. Corporate sales of Chex cereal saw tremendous boosts, with incremental volume over base increasing 295% and volume share increasing 48% from the previous year. These increases were directly attributed to the release of Chex Quest, and General Mills deemed the promotion highly successful.
That's surprising because I thought Chex Mix would be the best marketing for Chex. If never in a million years would you have gotten me to believe that a video game was at all part of this.
So how do we incorporate this into pharmaceutical sales? Wow, that is awesome, Cuddle Puppy. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I did not predict that happening. I highly doubt that these games help Burger King sales, but we might have to look up.
Maybe.
How are you feeling about this? Do you want a burger after playing as Burger Jr.?
Surprisingly, no. I feel like I'm starting to hate burgers. That's possible.
I like it. Oh, man. All right. Purdue Pharma should release Oxycontin Quest.
Exactly.
And have it be a clone of Plague Incorporated.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's their pitch. Yeah, the Oxycontin Quest.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tough.
Yeah. Tough audience. All right. Few canned questions. Man, so we usually ask the question, biggest mistake or accident you've seen in the lab, most expensive mistake. What's the most expensive or most, dangerous? We talked about thalidomide as being a mistake. Like in your experience with pharmaceutical regulation, what's your, example of biggest mistake by a company or by doctors?
Oof. There are a lot of consequential mistakes, I think. So the things that have the most consequential mistakes usually have big punitive damages. So I think I will say this. The mistake that we don't talk about with the FDA is the efficacious drugs that they don't approve. So we're often framing it in how to prevent injuries, how to prevent adverse events. But the flip side of it is that if you don't approve things because you have too high of a standard, you're also keeping things from the market. So a lot of states don't actually have a right to try law. So even if you are, have no drugs are available for your particular indication, you may not have the right to try an experimental drug outside of a clinical context. And because of that, I think the reverse error that the FDA makes that we don't really talk about as a society is, are they approving enough drugs, actually? And the drugs that they're keeping from the market, could they be beneficial in some way?
Are we risk adverse?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so because we're not willing, it's framed in this very much preserve life sort of way, we're not willing to ask whether or not we should be a little bit riskier. The flip side is, experimental, innovative practice of medicine, we do all the time. And correctly so. It's probably we don't experiment enough with drugs of uncertain quality, but when we do, we don't do it very well. And so either way, we're kind of losing.
Wow, that is an intriguing flip of that question. I did not expect that we might be too safe in our,
And I'm not saying that we are, but when we don't consider it, then we systematically make errors in only one direction.
Like, do we set the bar too high? And is it worth it?
Yeah.
Man. Speaking of risk adversity, death penalty, yes or no? You don't have to answer that, but that's like the ultimate. Zero-sum game, right?
Yeah. And in addition to being wildly unpopular, it's very expensive.
Yep, it's expensive and not effective at deterring crime. So is vengeance worth it?
And, crim law scholars have a lot to say about the reasons for punishment. Is it retributive? Is it deterrence-based? I'm an economist, so I have from that perspective, and so I tend to think mostly about deterrence. I don't know so much about this vindication and vengeance part of it.
No worries. It was just the most extreme version of this risk assessment. All right. What do you think? This is from Macaroon Granola. What do you think about the whole controversy about a country of India in denying patent rights of pharmaceuticals by international companies in order for domestic companies to rip off the patents and produce the same drugs at wholesale prices? just ignoring international patents, essentially.
I mean, it's complicated because I don't think that we have responded very responsibly at times with international crises in terms of patent, how we treat patent rights in terms of crisis. But in general, it's very inefficient not to have uncertainty regarding property rights. So we just talked about this in law and economics. Anytime you increase uncertainty, it's often waste. And so denying, then having them enforce costly through litigation their property rights, that does not seem to be necessarily that optimal either. But I mean, it's a real issue with having U.S. prices, or whatever they convert that to for developing countries, especially when there are things that can be so easily cured. There's such need. The inability of pharmaceutical companies sometimes to come to the table here does not make them sympathetic. I don't think this is at all efficient either. We could do a lot more to regulate pharmaceutical companies, but we should do that with an eye towards the effect on innovation. And the fact that it might influence innovation, affect innovation, doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. But only by considering that are we able to figure out how much innovation we're willing to sacrifice. Because if you have a ton of innovation, but no one has access to it, is that really that effective either?
Yeah.
So we, I think, need to think about it in a bit more of a clear-eyed way, rather than what we have rights to, what is some path that will both allow for some amount of innovation, but also trade off in access. And I think that applies to the treatment of developing countries as well.
I mean, so in terms of that, and I don't work in the pharmaceutical drug development space, but I mean, a lot of drugs that are developed and hit big, they are started at, academic institutions, or they're like startup companies that are then purchased by things like Pfizer, who pay for the FDA approval process. I mean, are those companies doing the innovation, or are they just facilitating the brought to market aspect of that?
That's a great question. I think insofar as the federal government is funding actually a lot of basic research, right? We have not flexed as much our potential ownership of that. We have ability to, we fully fund such things to have patent rights to it, actually. We just haven't done it so much. I think the question will be, what is the actual effect? If they are bought out, though, by pharmaceutical companies who take it across the line, they are compensating the startup for their R&D costs. So indirectly, they're still doing that. And so I think the question is, how do we reimburse whoever's taking it across the finish line for their R&D costs so that they continue to do so? Because if the startup is being compensated by either by being bought out, which is often what's happening, or by purchasing the patent and the product line itself. And so I think we still come back to this question of how much incentive is necessary to get people to engage in R&D, even beyond the basic research that is funding by the public. Unfortunately, we don't have full funding. We still have something going on, and as long as we can keep that private action going there, that's all we need.
All right. Huggy Beer requested a factoid, and I don't think we answered it. It was 14 minutes ago. Huggy Beer, hopefully you're still around to get an answer on this. But yeah, you ready to try some sneaking?
Yes.
This game is just ridiculously absurd,
right.
and I insist that you see it.
Let's see it.
That's where we're going. So,
okay. All
right. So if you have a factoid for Huggy Beer, I will set up this game.
All right. This is after the hindsight bias thing, right?
Yep.
Okay. Another factoid. So there is a doctrine in torts called the loss of a chance doctrine. And usually if you have a medical malpractice case and you have a person whose chance of survival with or without the malpractice was less than 50%, they can't actually recover. So if you have someone with stage 4 cancer and their survival rate is supposed to be less than 50%, they often can't recover in a malpractice suit because they can't prove, more likely than not, that they would have survived but for the negligence. And so what they do is say, we're going to transform this claim into a claim for the deprivation of a chance of survival. So it's not for the death, it's the fact that they deprived you of some chance of survival. And that's called the loss of a chance doctrine.
That is an interesting framing.
Yes. And so I've written an article about why that fundamentally misunderstands the statistic involved for causation and why everything is a probabilistic causation issue. We just understand it more in certain medical contexts. What is happening here?
That's the king.
You
guys aren't familiar?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Early 2000s Burger King mascot. It's absolutely amazing. Go
It
ahead.
looks like he is in your backyard.
Oh, man. Oh, come on, King. Let's go. Play game. New game. Confirm. Yes. Let's go.
Okay.
Oh, man. Are you ready for this?
All right. So every time you deliver food.
So what you're going to do is you're going to sneak up behind people. You're going to give them a burger. And so you'll walk up behind them and you'll press A.
Okay.
And then this meter will go up and you try to press A again when it's at the top. You'll see.
All right.
This is, misadventures, you are right. It is time for sneaking.
All
So
right.
this is literally the game. And you're trying not to let them see you. You have like a sensor meter on the left there.
Look how sneaky he is. I feel like he's
Okay, so one joystick, this one's going to move your camera around.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little more, I don't know if you've done any first-person
I'm
shooters. This may be
terrible at this,
challenging
though.
if
I'm
you're
supposed to be
not used
here, and then I'm
So
supposed to...
you can do that. You can jump inside there with the Y button and hide.
Oh, they have a box.
And so when somebody gets hungry and walks by you and you press A at the right time, you surprise them with a burger.
Oh my gosh.
Has
Okay.
anyone in chat seen these games before? Because they are ridiculous.
This is wonderful.
All right, so go look around. You got to find somebody that has a burger over their head in a thought bubble.
Oh.
They're hungry.
So you can't give anybody a
No.
burger.
They have to be hungry.
Wow.
They have to be like thinking
These
about
guys
Burger
look
King.
pretty not hungry. It's okay if they see me, correct? Or do I sneak around everybody?
I honestly don't remember. I know you have to sneak around the people that are hungry for sure.
Sure. Well, I do that anyway.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
I may have to show this one to the kid. I mean, man, it is something else, that's for sure.
I mean, you're not hungry. Good God. Is this the way Burger King finds out that everyone doesn't want Burger King? Is this a self-aware sort of
I
situation?
think they made a mistake getting rid of the king as a mascot.
Yeah, what do they have now?
I honestly don't know. I don't miss TV commercials anymore. So
Well, there was a Burger King on my way back from the courthouse. And there were many days that a 10-piece chicken nugget was 100% what I had for...
filled the void.
Yeah, what am I missing here? Are you seeing any burgers?
Look left, maybe. Is there some? I'm not seeing anyone.
Oh, this is a sad realization for
maybe you might have to go to the newspaper that's floating. You have to pick up the mission. How dare you?
Oh, goodness.
All right. Question. Do you favor or oppose the repeal of the 21st Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that itself repealed the 18th Amendment that prohibited legal sale of all alcohol and liquor?
I mean, clearly I support the 21st Amendment.
I was going to say that.
Otherwise, what I'd
supporting
be doing be very... Here we go. There we are.
Look at that.
There we go.
So, like, press accept. There we go. I've been completely misled.
Oh, there. That's the guy.
Okay, so yeah, you can see those, like, blue. That's where they're looking.
Yeah, okay.
So now walk up behind it.
Why am I moving so slow?
You're sneaking.
Okay, sure.
So you press A. Then press A again.
Oh.
That is it. That's good. There's another
amazing.
one. Sneak up behind them, and you're getting and the more stylish your delivery is, that meter thing.
Oh, really?
Different animations happen.
Oh, that's still regular surprise. Ugh. That looks like a really weak burger. I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah, your goal is to do this with 3 people.
This is a game I can get behind. Sneakily giving people food? Yes.
Of course, every gets goes tonight with this.
100% you should. I'm surprised you don't.
Is this better than NARC?
I mean, having experienced NARC briefly, yes. Come on, man, where am I? I really hate these things.
I have not looked at the speed run of this game, but I definitely need to. Oh, there you go.
Flourish.
2 flourish.
Yeah. I'm a gentleman.
So there you did it. I think you
Yeah, all right.
accomplished.
Well, there's another person there. Ugh.
You got C. you were an average burger.
That's so unfortunate.
Oh man.
Okay.
I would take that C personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've seen my performance in other games. This is like the best I've done.
Sneak King, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Whoever suggested this, amazing, wonderful.
If you guys have any questions for Elissa, you get time to answer it. She has 40 minutes left to answer questions about the intersection of law, economics, and regulations, pharmaceutical regulations, risk and uncertainty, and how you discuss that. The value of lives. We've gone down a road.
Yeah. Well, it takes people to a dark place. I apologize for that.
I mean, to be fair, we've had at least a few people on here that study suicides.
There you go.
Are heavier topics to discuss.
That's good.
I mean, but in terms of the realm of pharmaceutical regulation, I guess one of the questions we ask, if you had unlimited budget and no moral qualms, what experiment would you do? I mean, in your case, what rule would you just blanket change right now? What experiment would you like to try? Is there anything you just like to change? You had the ability to rewrite those rules.
Yeah, it's a good question. What will I not get in trouble for saying?
Yeah, our literal dozens of viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
You never
No,
know. This is if the wrong person picks up a video, I completely understand.
no, I think that I think the difficulty with my research and experiments is that I'm often trying to figure out what people are thinking and how to get them to reveal, oh, he died.
I think he just passed out, but we're going to say he died.
No, there are real
Statistical
consequences.
value.
I clearly did not care enough, I'll tell you that. Is there someone else? Oh, there is, that guy. Oh no, what happened here?
Maybe click the trigger. I don't know which one. These buttons. Not that one. Those. Don't.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Oh, that guy.
didn't know
Oh, that
was
guy
it.
died in the meantime. Oh, that's not great. My sneaking is so slow. So revelation of beliefs is our biggest issue. So what I'd love is for neuroscience to finally give me a mind reading tool so I can directly read that and try to assess it. Does that work?
I mean, so I mean, that's what functional MRI and EEGs are trying to do.
Yeah, with at least.
We had Justin Riddle on actually a month and a half ago, who literally studies that in the neurosciences program.
Yeah.
Have you talked to any of them about?
So they in behavioral economics often just yes, flourish the rate.
There it is.
So for them, it's a lot of brain activity and eye attention, tracking eye movement, and so that's why I've overlapped with them in terms of when you're reading warnings, how much time are you taking? Can we track actually how much your time you're spending? If you're looking at two different prompts, are your eyes moving towards one or the other? We can see what you're valuing more, what you're paying attention to more in that way. But risk beliefs, I have not seen them do yet.
So I think you can grab if you decline that, it'll be a different challenge.
Okay, so one over here.
Pick up one of those. I think all the missions are the same, but
Oh, hash
slightly
browns.
different. Of delivering hash browns.
That's
All right.
more important.
Huggy Bear has a point. C's earn burger degrees, so C is good enough.
Yeah, there you go. And with such flourish. I mean, that's a lunge, basically.
Oh yeah, Sneak King was a thing. This was an advertising marketing thing in the early 2000s. And it was absolutely ridiculous, but kudos to Burger King.
Accomplished? Already?
What was let's just do it as fast as you can. So that was the 3 deliveries.
Yeah, that's what I've done. The other one is also C, though.
Oh, nice. Misadventures in Astro. What are the economic impacts of all this unsuspected caloric challenges? When your next paper writes itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I love how that's framed in a legitimate question fashion. Well done, Misadventures. Thank you.
Ugh.
So I think we're going to give probably a half hour for NARC. So you have 7 minutes left to deliver as many burgers as you can.
Well, I'm going to say one gentle critique is that the king celebrates too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is too happy with himself.
Yeah. I don't have time for this. I got to deliver burgers.
There are laurels on which he rests, is the only thing. Or he might not really, It's a pant that does not suit him well.
It's the same one every time.
Yeah.
It gets old.
Is it Travis Kelce? I'm sorry, that's the chanting. That's
Which team were you cheering for?
It will shock you, but I am not interested whatsoever.
That's fair. Our risk assessment. It's hard to watch football at this point.
It is, yeah.
It's not no joke.
Yeah. All right. I believe that's done.
Mission accomplished. Checks. What was it? Checks. I'm gonna look up the other one. What's it called? I don't know. I'll have to look it up somewhere in here. Yeah, I record the questions in case you want them at some
I'm
point.
just looking, yeah.
But yeah, we'll leave it at that. Chex Quest. There we go. Thank you, Huggy Beer. I'm going to look up Chex Quest and add it to the compendium of fast food related video gaming, including 7-Up and Noid, Yo-Noid. Do you remember that?
No.
Domino's, the Noid. It's a Nintendo.
Okay.
We can bust that one out of here.
Wow. So am I wrong, or are these all the same?
No, so anyone that has a letter on it is one that you've done. If it has an exclamation point.
Oh, I see. I thought they were categories.
But yeah, if you guys are just joining us, Ask Scientist Game and Mediocre Gameplay Expert Science. Our guest today is Dr. Elissa Gentry. She is an expert in law and economics, the intersection of the two, as well as regulation and uncertainty analysis, things like that. If you guys have questions, it is time to ask. Go Haku, is this the Burger King game? Yes, it is, and your answer, wow, is correct. This is one of the 3 Burger King games. This is one known as Sneak King. We already played a little bit of Big Bumpin'. We won't have time to get to Pocket Bike Racer, but next time I'm on stream, maybe I'll play these games because they are so.
I'm going to say Sneak King is significantly better than the bumper thing. I'm enjoying this so much.
5 out of 5 stars.
Yes.
This is one you can.
What I like is that he stays happy for a long time, but she just kind of moves on with her day, and he's still dancing.
Just give me my hash. Let me go. Hijacked. But yeah, go Haku. Welcome back to the stream. Thank you for joining us as usual. Yeah, we got about 4 minutes of the Burger King games left, and then passed out. Is the kingdom.
These are the highest stakes that I've,
5 out of 5
Yeah.
cardiac arrest.
Exactly.
All right, so one of the things you wrote in your bio is about this idea of, free market versus regulatory forces. I mean, is there any general comments you want to say on that? I mean, there's the libertarian perspective where everything is regulated by the free market, but there's obviously problematic workplaces where that won't be the case. Is there any broad sweeping statements you want to make?
Yeah, I just would say sometimes we have to think about what kind of market we're in. Oftentimes we think that it's a perfectly competitive market. We make laws as though it is a perfectly competitive market, but it's not. And so the predictions of a perfectly competitive market can't translate as well. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I see lawmakers and lawyers do when they're invoking economics, is they invoke it too broadly in ways that economists would not. Economists take a lot more nuance to these predictions than is treated with the law, and then oftentimes without that, it looks laughable because it is laughable. It's not economics. And so it kind of gets a bad rap.
I mean, so most of your expertise lies in the United States healthcare and economic system. But do you do comparisons to other systems? I mean, the U.S. is one of the few, capitalistic healthcare systems. Do you do those comparisons and make, predictions, guesses, how you might change it?
It's tough. It's hard to find a comparator for the U.S. for many reasons, like you suggest. In my class, we talk about the differences between us and other countries, especially those with socialized healthcare, in terms of quality, cost, access, things that we actually pride ourselves on, we don't necessarily perform well on. And so that's kind of the paradox of the U.S. health system, is that the things that we say we prioritize, like choice, we actually may not. Because if you do you have choice in your insurance? We get our insurance through our employer. Most people do. And usually when that's the case, you have a choice between two potential plans, maybe two companies. That's not the competitive market. And so when we say that we like the market-based forces, what forces are we talking about with insurance? Oftentimes, especially in the individual market, especially as uncertainty increased, people pulled out. So very few insurance companies were left in the individual market. So even in that marketplace, it's a thin market. Yeah, a lot of the predictions of a perfectly competitive market aren't coming true here. And so by applying these predictions not carefully to the context, we're going to have a lot of wrong predictions, and it's going to sound laughable, and is laughable. And so what I try to do with my students in law and economics is give them some economic intuition to spot economic bullshit when they see it, right? At the end of the day, they have some idea about what should match, what shouldn't match, and when to question some predictions.
Makes sense. All right, we're at 10:30. I think it's time to start some NARC. I don't know what your time will be, but we're going to guess somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes. So this is perfect window right here.
Excellent.
You'll be probably the 50th guest to play this. So
Okay.
Pretty big data set.
Great.
Let me get the game set up as well as.
Do you want a McAllen?
Yes, let's do it. I really like it.
So of the two, what have you preferred between the Avalor and the
I
Brocoli?
like the first one. I'm not a big fan of the smokiness.
The punch?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's growing up in backwoods Minnesota, having enough overcooked food. The smoke might have been too much. All right, let me get this set up so you can actually see the timer.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
This I think you'll like. It's smoother.
Let's see. All right, we got a timer. Let's get some NARC up and running. I'll change your screen so you can actually see it. Let's hope this works immediately. Confident it's going to. Do you want to see the timer, or do you want the timer over here?
I want to see the time.
You want that pressure?
Yes.
Do you want to know Matt's time and or Jeff's time?
I will at the end.
Okay.
Just so I can see
done.
how much longer.
So before you start, a copy of this game, which includes the box and the manual. So
Okay.
I just want to give you context so you know
Sure.
more behind
Yeah.
what you're about to embark on.
It's important. Oh, sorry. This is yours. Yeah.
You are Max Force. Your mission: bust Mr. Big, destroys dreaded criminal empire, seize all contraband, stolen money, illegal weapons, use rockets, bombs, high-powered machine guns, apprehend all suspects, protect the innocent, punish the guilty, and stop at nothing.
Stop at nothing. You had me at stop at
Yes.
nothing. Okay. So remind me.
So you are on Nintendo controller.
Oh, that's right.
That one. So
Thank God.
B is jump, B is squat, A is rockets, A is bullets.
Yes, that's
Hold
right.
it versus tap it. Go to the right, find a door, press start, and I'll start the timer as
All right.
soon as you touch the ground and gain control.
Great.
Good vintage alcohol. This is 12-year Macallan.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's okay.
I like it.
Okay. Good.
All right. Off to the races.
Yeah.
No advantage in killing anyone. You're just going as fast as you can. And this is entirely pride-based.
Excellent.
All right. Let me catch up on some questions here.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, those of you not familiar with Ask a Scientist Gaming, we make every guest at the end of the night play this game after they've had several drinks, talked a whole bunch of about their expertise,
There we
but
go.
now it's time to win the war on drugs. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
force them to do it, and we also time them doing it, so you can see the clock in the top right corner there. They are racing against their colleagues across all different disciplines. This really is a matter of pride, representing all of this College of Law, so heads up.
Yeah.
But also competing with them, so.
Yeah.
All right. Macaroon Granola wants to know, do you agree or disagree with the FDA's decision to approve the genetic altering therapy for the blood disease sickle cell that has only been proven to be 90% successful? And what if it proves that the outcomes that have altered the germline and caused successive generations to be deleteriously affected? there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
so they
you may
proved
have
the
to-
genetic alteration. It has a 90% success rate, but also they're not entirely sure how that's going to affect like the next generation of kids. We talked about that.
Yeah,
20
it's
year later
been an issue with prior
potentially genetic
issues. Yeah, I'm actually unaware of what their plan is for. Usually, phase 4 of the approval process is post-marketing surveillance. I imagine they're going to do. I'm hoping that they have a plan in action for that. The problem, what is I'm not sure what the nature of the uncertainty is for the effects on the next generation. I would assume that if they've approved this, the average effect expected is not, as debilitating as that of DES. But I'm curious. I think kind of going back to my point about
I'm going to interrupt briefly.
How do you do
so
that?
You're going to have to shoot these guys wearing black with bullets at close range.
Okay.
One of them will drop a blue card. So hold
I
the
see.
button. Not rockets, bullets. So hold the A button. Yep. Shoot the guys wearing black.
There we go.
One of them is going to drop something with a blue card. So press up.
There we go.
So you're going to do that again, and eventually one of them will drop a blue card. So
Okay.
just kill everyone on screen, close range with bullets, and too close or you bust them instead of shooting them. You don't want to do that.
Sure. No, I would hate to
They-
bust them. Not red, just blue. Or black, right?
This adventures. Changing the subject a bit. Speaking of economics, the war on drugs, am I right?
Exactly.
How do you feel about that?
Mauled by a dog.
Yeah, if you hold both buttons, you can shoot the dog and turn it into a puppy.
Oh. I'm spending too much time on the dog. But he could be a puppy.
Oh, there you
Is that it?
Nope, you gotta do bullets, and it's only the guys wearing black. So yeah, kill those on the screen. Prison's got to be full capacity for maximum profits. Man, you want to die?
No, I do not. Well, actually, so I mean, that is an issue.
So, yeah,
I don't
kill
wanna-
the brown guys, because only 3 can be on the screen at a time. And if
I
you guys
see.
are Brown, it'll make the
I was wondering
black
why.
show.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
These guys.
Oh, come on. I'm on a different line as her. There we go.
Perfect.
How do I pick it up?
Just walk over it. His boxes are weird because Nintendo.
There we go.
All right, now you slide it in the key slot, and then leave.
All right, interesting.
For-profit prisons, what could go wrong? You
Yeah.
want to say anything about war on drugs and/or for-profit prisons?
I mean, what can I say that NARC does not about the war on drugs?
It really does capture everything.
It really does.
Wait till you see the clowns with knives. You know, the 80s.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a popular subject. I think there are a lot of questions about what degree of de-incarceration we need to be doing. And I think it's a very plausible tale that when you have
Go down to the car,
here.
jump in it.
Oh, excellent. Hey. Okay, never mind. Does that... Oh, jump in it.
B. A little less. Give 7 frames. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Now
there
start
we
at the
go.
bottom of the screen. You're gonna run into bombs, but it's fine. You just drove for it saved you a bunch of time.
Okay,
And then you
great.
keep going.
So much stuff. So, I mean, I'm sympathetic. I think the question is, what do you do?
Yeah.
There are a lot of proposals ranging from the serious to the unserious. And I'm officially out of my depth.
No worries. You can say no to any question on screen. Dozens of viewers will hold you accountable.
I know.
Go Haku. A pharmacist friend of mine says there's still kickbacks at small boutique pharmacies. Why is that
How do
still
we-
happening? And tap E to jump. So tap it.
There we go. So boutique pharmacies have
Still getting
kickbacks.
kickbacks in terms of, I don't know, advertising or buying lunch. And
I mean, so there is a level of interaction between pharmacists, pharmaceutical companies, and providers that is allowed, and that's why databases like Open Payments exist, is to track it. So one of the things that courts have basically kind of decided on is that we don't necessarily have to give information about physicians' payments. They've decided to basically do that through a database rather than, you don't go to your doctor and they tell you, by the way, I have lunch with Purdue. It's available for the public, though, so that's kind of what they're relying on the public to do. Now, do people go and look up their provider on Open Payments to see what kind of payments they received from pharmaceutical companies? Probably not. So I think the question also is, how effective is that disclosure? But how effective would it be if you found out what your doctor was receiving from pharmaceutical companies, especially if it's something like a lunch? Yeah.
So have you looked that up on your
I'm not.
primary care provider?
No. My issues with them is really not what they're trying to prescribe me at the end of the day.
That's right.
But I'm not sure if it's less or more biasing unless you know what other doctors are being paid by pharmaceutical companies, because they take a lot of people to lunch, and that may or may not mean anything. So I think that's the response I have.
That's crazy. So, like, if you're a National Science Foundation program officer, I can't buy you a cup of coffee, right? I can't invite you to dinner or anything. There's all sorts of conflict of interest. But when you're talking about people prescribing drugs and affecting the health of thousands of people, it is an acceptable framework. Is that crazy, or is it?
Well, I think the question is, how can you... So what's happened with the courts is, what is acceptable speech?
So you want to stay on the bottom.
Yeah.
So jump in the car and just, make sure you stay on the bottom till the end.
There we go.
So bottom of the screen, go all the way to the end. You're done with the level. It's the longest level in the game. So
All right.
Car saved you a whole bunch of time. It's free speech question.
Well, in some respects, so if we try to limit their ability to promote without good reason, then it can be a commercial free speech issue, and like an association issue. My goodness, there are the clowns.
Just like they told you in
All
there.
right, yeah.
Watch out for them clowns.
I mean, if they'd included the clowns, I'd actually be more afraid.
So here's a question of science-related examples. Well, what is the Earth is flat, or anti-vax equivalent of your field? What's the dogma people will die by despite being blatantly wrong by experts in the field? Is there an example like that? So you're gonna go in that door right there. Go to the right. You'll get a silver card.
Okay.
So you get a silver card.
Okay, here we go.
And you're going to go up through the door, but don't press up after you go through the door, or you'll go through it again.
Which is what I did.
Again, yep. It happens to almost everyone. But yeah, is there some sort of dogma that the common person holds true that your field just despises?
Okay.
Through the door.
Oh,
Don't
I didn't
press
need
up
it.
too much. Yep.
All right, there we go.
That's the card slot.
There we go. Yeah, I think that, kind of going back to my prior answer about the free market, I think that's kind of that thing. It's just oftentimes people who have, I don't want to, like a passing familiarity with economics can appeal to these things when they don't really count. They don't actually apply. And that, I think, is the biggest thing that I have to combat.
Is there a real example of a free market, like a truly free market, unregulated?
So if there's, what we're really thinking about is, did I go through the story? Yeah.
Yep.
Left, right. What I'm usually thinking.
You're going to shoot the Rambo guys in close range with bullets.
Okay.
One of them will drop a green card.
And bullets, sorry. That was a
Yep.
rocket.
So
Okay.
hold the shoot button.
Have to
So
shoot.
kill that guy, then Rambo will come out. And then kill that guy, and Rambo will come out. That one again.
There we go.
Perfect. All right, sorry. So
There
an
you go.
example of a free market.
So a perfectly competitive market, that's what I think. People think markets are perfectly competitive when they're not. And the assumptions for that are actually homogeneous goods, like widgets. Pens aren't homogeneous. A bunch of sellers. produce so little that their production never actually affects price. Perfect information. It's really hard to imagine a market in which that's actually true. So we're all kind of approximating at best that we can there. But it's a nice ideal. It's a new theoretical threshold that we can kind of hinge on. But some markets are more competitive than others. Insurance, not a particularly competitive market. Some markets, because of their structure, are going to have more market power. Pharmaceuticals. They're high cost of entry, high fixed cost, probably never going to be a competitive market.
So Huggy Beer had a Pedal Puppy. Where do you draw the line between lobbying and bribery? Maybe beyond the pay grade.
Yeah,
the scientist gaming. Right?
Yeah, I feel like you should ask a political scientist. I'd be curious about their answer.
It's fair. All right. Macaroon Granola wants to know, do you agree or disagree with the scientific attempts to use genetic engineering tools to try and bring back extinct species such as Carolina parakeets, the passenger pigeon, the ivory-billed woodpecker, just to name a few?
Yeah, so interestingly, we've had a couple of presentations on this. Oh, I have it already?
Yeah,
oh, okay, sorry. I was just going to murder more people.
It's murder's fine.
Yeah.
That's half the game.
So, I'll remember from here on out. So we had a presentation from Alex Irwin, who was at FIU, and he is a biologist, and he was suggesting that a lot of the stuff we think about as
That one too.
oh, we have that? Okay, great. As big leaps in genetic modification, we already do to some extent by our current interventions into endangered species, particularly. And so to think critically about, what constitutes necessary or truly qualitatively different interference in terms of genetic modification, and what are current strategies of often taking animals and breeding them in captivity so that they, continue. Is it really that different? And he suggests perhaps not, or there are versions of it that is not. So for something I know nothing about, I think it's interesting, and I think interesting people are working on it, and perhaps they think that things are less extreme than people suggest.
That's an interesting invited speaker for your department. How did that unfold?
He's an environmental law scholar,
I see.
but also has a PhD in biology.
I see.
I might be getting that wrong. It's something like that.
Yeah, so he's a PhD, JD.
Yeah, and so what he's doing is lab work, and also these dogs are killing me.
Yeah, so you can hold both
Yeah.
buttons and shoot them, or do a good rocket. Yeah, hold both buttons. There you go. Take
Sorry,
that,
Tally.
They don't. All right.
Do I have a gold?
So now you got to shoot the guy in the wheelchair with a rocket.
Oh, that's great.
He's the terminator. It's fine. We win the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Or how we won it so far.
Yeah. So I mean, oh
So yeah,
god.
tapping A. Kohaku. Which country has the strictest health laws, U.S. or EU?
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by health laws. So in terms of litigation for malpractice, we're probably the more litigious. We have more going on in terms of litigation.
What about malpractice events?
Hard to say.
Litigation.
Yeah. Man, come on,
The
guy.
guy's on the screen, wheelchair guy will come back.
Okay.
There he is.
There it is.
Yeah, kill the dogs, do the squat, or rocket. Either one works. There you go. Don't worry. He's only in the wheelchair to hide drugs and get the parking tag.
I believe
He's got
it.
fully functional legs.
I'm sure.
I have no remorse for hitting the guy in the wheelchair.
I'm having the hardest time hitting this guy in the wheelchair.
So. All right, so we had the anti-vax question. Another one I'd like to ask is the airplane conversation. Sit next to somebody random, they say, what do you do? Your answer is, I'm a professor at FSU, I'm a lawyer, doctor. What's that conversation unfold?
Yeah, I usually just tell them one or the other.
Just pick one?
Yeah.
Well, which one results in the most interesting conversation?
Oh.
So, rockets on this guy, so tap A. There you go. One. So you need to do that twice. He takes 3 rockets.
All right.
Realistic here.
All right. Cool.
Miss Ventures, if these guys had better economic opportunities, they wouldn't be on the streets.
That's probably true.
Cuddle puppy, but some people born to dress up as clowns and stab people indiscriminately.
I mean, I have more respect for the clowns, I'm not going to lie.
Is the brown trench coat a flasher?
You have to believe so, right?
Yeah, well, why else would they wear the trench coat?
Well, I don't know. I do love it.
They have like drugs inside the coat and they're opening it up to display their goods. But
that could be.
I mean, guess I'll have to look up the manual because they have names for all of these characters.
Oh, really?
It's got some lore behind it, some backstory.
Oh, that's good.
All right. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, we have about 10 minutes left of the stream. Let's happy to answer any questions you guys have. Health, economics, risk and uncertainty. Anything you guys want to know related to, how law relates to economic situations. She's happy to answer them, particularly as they relate to health, but we'll discuss pretty much anything on the stream. So throw your questions in there now. Also, if you guys have suggestions on people we should raid, take a look around, find some educational streamers. We'll be happy to raid them starting at 11 o'clock when our stream is officially over.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't accidentally become the guy who throws syringes with deadly accuracy. You were born to be that guy.
Predestination.
NARC has answered nature versus...
Yeah, apparently.
Thank you, Huggy Beer. That's amazing. This game should have been called DEA and not NARC. Yes, that's true. It's not actually an American agent, but whatever. So, narcotics, I don't know. And what else? We talked about movies, which
So I'm gonna die here. Sit still so I can shoot you.
Oh yeah, the regulatory versus EU and US. We didn't really answer that question.
What about it? So it depends. So in terms of malpractice litigation, we're much more litigious, generally speaking. It's hard to tell about medical errors.
Yeah, so go back that way. It'll show up past this paint.
Okay.
You'll have to kill the people on the screen. I don't know, those weird triggers the way this is programmed. So my advice on the tapping is don't press it as hard. Like you don't need to press it all the way down. It takes too long.
Okay.
So you tap it less. It'll give you more. Were the dogs predetermined to be drug dogs?
I know, that feels tough. That feels tough. I can buy humans, but dogs, come on. But in terms of restrictive, more protectionist perhaps in terms of the drugs that they let in, ironically perhaps in light of thalidomide, they tend to be a bit more conservative. So if that's what we mean, then yeah. But of course these are gross simplifications.
Yeah. Hopefully people understand things you hear on Ask a Scientist Gaming are not absolute truths. Do not take us seriously.
Well,
I love on Reddit where it's like the first comment on a lot of the law posts is, I'm not a lawyer. INAL. But here's what I think. Huggy Beer has added some lore here. These dogs were filmed drug-sniffing dogs. They like the smell too much.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. I mean, they definitely have the bloodlust.
These opinions do not represent the FSU. That's interesting. So when you testify before the state Congress, like, Yeah. Are you affiliated with FSU during? They introduce you as a professor.
We do.
Like, opinions are your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Formalize that disclaimer. Or is that
Not really. I think I had to fill out some sort of paperwork discussing like my credentials, and I'm sure there was some sort of disclaimer there. Actually, I know there was. I can't remember what it was though.
macaroon granola? We talked about this earlier, but what do you think about how movies and TV shows portray your profession? And our list of terrible ones was what? Suits, Community.
Community, yeah.
What was on that? House.
House
We
was
didn't talk
bad.
about House in terms of depth, the number of malpractice suits. I mean, it's just literally every episode you watch it and cringe. Here's how-
Yeah, sometimes, so usually we have to get at, there we, did that work? Yes,
He's gonna turn into a gold card.
thank God.
Pick up the gold card
All
and
right.
go through the door. So you've beaten phase 1 of Mr. Big. Sorry, here comes phase 2.
No.
Aren't you
Yeah.
glad you
I'm
agreed?
amazed. Love this.
And
Love.
Matt was like, "No, do it. It's a good idea."
Yeah, he's,
Grounds for divorce.
yes.
Yes. Okay, go to the
yes.
top of the screen.
Uh-huh.
All right, I'll give you a little chance to imbibe this guy. So what you're going to do is you're going to jump and then shoot a rocket on the way down, and it's got to hit him in the hat.
Okay.
So you're going to have to tap B and then tap A.
Okay.
So what I do is like walk away over here,
Uh-huh.
stop, turn around, tap B, and on the way down you're going to tap A.
Okay.
Get some good distance. from him.
Okay.
If he's too close, it's just going to steamroll it.
Yeah.
Go Haku. Any favorite Law and Order episode that dealt with health law?
Law and Order is mostly about crime, so it's difficult to get kind of the health law.
I was going to say health law is
Part
not
of it.
really sexy enough for crime.
Yeah.
Right? Is there an example of that?
I mean, there are, like, especially lots of issues, perhaps. That didn't work, right? Come on, get away from me. So there are kind of interesting overlaps between. Did that work? No, he's just killing me.
I said I hate this guy. You're absolutely right. We have an emote dedicated to Mr. Big.
Oh, yeah? Okay, great.
So you don't have to walk back towards him. You can just stand there when you're away from him.
Okay.
And then just tap B. So yeah, get some distance. Oh yeah, Matt, everyone hates this. So last week, Adam Dewan played this guy. He got the hat off on basically the first try.
Why?
He got the fastest time of our NARC.
Oh, no. Don't tell Jeff.
I don't think Jeff was leading either way. Mr. Big is a rite of passage. Absolutely, everyone knows it on stream. You have to do it.
No, I need to have, so I can keep distance. Yeah.
So Macaroon Granola has a fun follow-up on our science
Okay.
movie and TV show. If you could pick an actress to portray a character based on you, who would it be? Somebody wanted to make a documentary and
Yeah.
a film about.
I assume that someone will, yeah, obviously.
Inevitably.
Yeah.
If it happened right now,
Yeah.
who would you want to play you?
I feel like my life resembles Liz Lemon's quite a lot, just in terms of my general frustration and anger.
You're advocating for Tina Fey.
Yeah, no, it's more don't get hung up on appearances. It's more about my essence.
Definitely brings an ambiance.
Yeah, right? Ugh. Okay. So am I going to just time out, probably?
Have you seen the new Mean Girls movie?
I have not. I love the soundtrack of the musical.
Yeah, I guess it's the same soundtrack.
Yeah.
And they took the movie and basically reproduced it
Yeah,
exactly.
it's basically waitressing, right?
Yeah.
It's a similar issue.
Yeah. So I'd go left, get some distance, get them like off the screen so you can situate yourself. And if you get sick of this, I can help out as well. If it's,
I mean, we're turning. I think that maybe you need a. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish that.
all right, I'll get the hat off.
Oof.
But it is so top of the screen, get some distance away, jump way down, shoot a rocket. So now it's gonna be
That's
2 rockets
definitely-
to the face and then bullets to the spine. Get some distance. Yeah, that is a non-trivial jump. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's how stupid Nintendo games are. All right, so now turn back. You don't have to jump anymore. Just rocket.
Oh, just rocket.
Yep. you go. Okay, so now you're going to walk away from them again. You're going to use bullets on the vertebrae, but you're going to want to be between these two lines. So move down on the screen. Okay. And turn back and hold the shoot button. While you're shooting, move up and down.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
going through all this. We've actually broken this down. My brother's an electrical engineer, and he reverse engineered this boss in this game. So we figured out how to beat him very, very quickly.
Oh, okay.
You do with our recreation.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's really a team building exercise.
Seems like it. Okay.
Here's what needs to happen. You and Matt need to commit to this game and get the 2-player speedrun world.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
I have a tutorial online, so I'm actually the former world record holder in speedrunning this game. But I've never done the 2-player speedrun because I don't have somebody to run with. My wife refuses to play this.
I can't take her.
Respect that decision.
Yeah, I really do.
That's fair.
All right, I think you're gonna have to finish this out.
Oh no, you got it. You got one. You're gonna walk this way. Do it again.
All right, come on.
Walk that way. Just turn around. Making progress, absolutely. Matt, thank you for the encouragement. We're getting there. Down 3 to go. Yeah, the third one is the hard one. So yeah, you get down here. For some reason, you can't shoot them at the top of the screen because Nintendo.
Oh, there we go.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have it. If you guys have suggestions that anyone we should raid, throw those suggestions now. Yeah, you're almost done.
All right.
We've got one level left after this. No boss fights. In fact, this next level is the easiest level.
Okay, insert the gold paper. There we go.
So this next level is civil forfeiture the level.
That's amazing.
It's not what it's actually called. That's what we call it.
That's fair. So just as much gold as possible?
You don't need to.
Okay, just go.
Yeah, I mean, if you want due process.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting due process.
Is that what all this is for? It's really to find your partner for NARC. Yes, this is my long game to find somebody that's willing to play with.
Good luck. Training mission. Amazing. Wonderful. I will. Of course I will.
So you did it.
Yeah,
You
great.
won the war on drugs.
Yeah.
You feel like this, between this, Sneak King, a little Mario, playing some Sonic, little bumper cars, successful night.
Yeah, perfect.
Physics and Depression is a streamer. I've never seen Physics and Depression, but holy cow.
Man.
All right. So that's it. Yeah, was that everything you hoped it would be?
Even more. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
No, thank you for bringing whiskey. I usually get alcohol for the guests, but Elissa was kind enough to bring some whiskey sampling over. Both her and Matt are connoisseurs, and I really appreciate their insights. In fact, I buy drinks based on my guest suggestions, so I really do appreciate it.
So how did this stack up?
Oh, I like the Macallan. I've had that several
All right.
times. Yeah, that's... I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I wish I had the words to express that.
Sure.
I need to have
complex, balanced.
What's the whiskey equivalent of a sommelier? Is there a terminology for that? There is a Tallahassee whiskey club.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Man, which guest did I have on that was a member of it? I don't remember, but apparently they have a club.
Okay.
And believe it or not, the club is going to drink whiskey. So, all right. Well, Nerduino streaming. Thank you, Go Haku. All right, Elissa, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I've learned a lot. I really like guests that are outside of my domain of expertise because I get insights beyond what I normally talk to guests about. So I really appreciate you taking time to join me. Do you have any parting words for the audience?
No, thank you for bearing with me. I hope you were entertained, and thank you so much for having me on. This was a lovely discussion.
No, thank you. It's been a lot of fun. So, guest every other Wednesday night up until May 15th. So we have a full schedule till then. Our next guest is Roberto Vinces. He's a neurobiologist in the biology department. He studies tastes and reward processing. And this is interesting. Chemogenetic manipulation of brain activity, basically how you can use chemical stimulants and genetic manipulation to change how thoughts happen. And so I think he studies this on animal models. But needless to say, it's interesting if you can apply these types of things to people and how you can taste and manipulate taste through genetics, things like that. So, he'll be the guest in 2 weeks. So you guys join us on the 20th, 8 to 11 as usual. Yeah, I don't know what we're playing yet, but I'll keep you guys posted. Follow us on Twitter or join our Discord channel if you want to get a list of upcoming guests. We're filled again until May 15th, and it's a broad range of people, so swing by. But again, Elissa, thank you very much for joining me. Audience, thank you for all your questions. It's always a pleasure. We go down some interesting paths with every question you guys ask, and we really appreciate it. Stick around. We're going to rate an educational streamer. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys again in 2 weeks. Until then.